The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello and welcome to round 3 of the Summer Chess Classic. Once again, we are your hosts for this event. My name is Caleb Denby, and I'm joined by the illustrious Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
Nice to be with you, Caleb. It's been fun.
Yeah, welcome back to the studio again.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. Thank you for joining us.
Here we are on day 3, and as always, the players are already at it over at the Chase Park Plaza.
Right.
The round, of course, is underway every day at 1:30 p.m. There they are, doing their stuff in the windowless room.
Exactly.
Only chess.
2 rounds of play. Tell us about the standings. Let's start with the A group, Caleb.
Well, after 2 rounds, we already have a clear front runner in the A group. Andrew Hong is perfect.
Perfect.
Through 2 rounds, 2-0 with no draws. Meanwhile, in joint second place is most of the field. And over in the B group, we also have some interesting results as well. But I was going to say in the A group, we have Ray Robson, who did a absolute Houdini act yesterday.
He did.
To save a half point. Is on 1 out of 2, along with Oparin, Awonder Liang, Ante Brkic, Temur Kuybokarov, Christopher Yoo, and Mikhail Antipov. Meanwhile, Nikolas Theodorou does actually have a half point from yesterday, and Benjamin Bach also with just a half point.
Exactly. And
And
tell us about our standings in the B group.
Yeah, over in the B group, we have joint leaders after 2 rounds.
Right.
The story of yesterday was Andy Woodward playing a phenomenal game against the only person who won in round 1, Steven Zierk. So that bumps Steven back down to a half point back.
50%.
Meanwhile, Andy and Irina, both winning their round 2 games, just eke out ahead of the field so far.
Exactly. Akshat was enjoying the extra pawn, but he couldn't make it work for him. And tell us about the format for these 2 round robins.
Of course. So there is the A group and the B group. That's the 2 10-player round robins we're speaking of. In both groups, the players get 120 minutes for the game with a 30-second increment from move 1.
Right.
And also, as in our premier events, there are no draw offers permitted. So you will always see the game go to its natural conclusion.
And tell us about the schedule.
So we are already on round 3 with just 9 rounds total. So every day, the games themselves start at 1:30 p.m. You can follow along at uschesschamps.com. And the final day, round 9, will begin 2 hours early to allow some extra time for a playoff if we need it.
And lay the table for round 3. Tell us about the pairings. Let's start with the A group.
Of course. So over in the A group, Temur Kuybokarov, who's had a very up and down tournament, 1 win, 1 loss,
Right.
gets his shot at Ray Robson, taking the white pieces. Grigoriy Oparin will play Benjamin Bach. Ante Brkic is up against Awonder Liang. And Nikolas Theodorou playing Mikhail Antipov. Meanwhile, our key matchup for the day is going to be between Christopher Yoo and Andrew Hong. Andrew, of course, trying to keep it going.
Keep the streak
see
alive.
if he can make it 3 for 3.
Absolutely.
So, what can you tell us how he's doing in this game, yes?
Well, exactly. Let's just jump into it. It was a complicated Najdorf, and I saw this move, Queen b6, and I thought to myself that Christopher was seizing a poor position.
Okay.
That I didn't like the move Queen b6 one bit. Knight f4, Queen takes b4, and I kind of left scratching my head. Why didn't Andrew simply capture and then play Knight f4? And with the threat of Rook takes h2, Black is for choice, in my opinion. This is just kind of an easy position for Black to play. His pieces have good squares, good outposts. That's all it is.
You could have given me a lot of guesses, and after Queen b6, I don't think I was going to come up with just losing our knight.
No.
So he must have some idea, right? Like, what is the idea?
Let's see what the idea is. He did play Knight f4, Queen takes b4. Thank you very much. d5. Okay, I get you. That is a tempo against my queen, but I came
Just go back to b6.
Go back to b6. And please tell me what you have for your sacrificed piece.
Yeah, there's the knight's just gone. Like, what are we?
Like,
what's going on here?
Like, indeed, what is going on? And we came in at a very confusing moment for your hosts, as we're just scratching our. I don't know if this is what we would call a good morning St. Louis moment.
Yeah, this is.
Usually it's for us when we blunder a queen, and but this is very stunning.
So, I mean, the idea must revolve around c2. So what happens if I'll try.
Please.
I don't believe it, but I'll try. So what if I go d4 here?
Okay, now,
so
of course.
Hitting your knight, hitting your queen.
d4, indeed, that's precisely right. It closes off the diagonal. You hit our knight, you hit our queen. Now, I'm a materialist.
Of course.
I really like pawns. I'm not interested in bishop takes d4, pawn takes, queen takes, rook takes h2. I let you off the hook. I want to hold on to my extra piece.
That's what I was afraid of. So
of course.
I have to take the queen back.
Exactly. Now, I look at the position and I say, you got a good knight. Let me get rid of it.
Knight d5.
You got to take.
I must take that guy as well.
Take.
And I was really hoping rook h2 was going to lead to something.
Exactly. And let me just shut you off. Just go rook to g2, and inviting more trades.
There's also even bishop g3. It's
also
really far away from working.
It really is. And I just, even if we give white, if we give black all he wants, and we get some position like this, where you might say, well, I've got some pawns. I've got a piece.
Yeah.
And I've got knight c5 on the agenda. I've got rook e1. I got knight takes d4. Once I've played rook e1, I don't get it. I think Andrew just had a momentary blind spot here. It's entirely possible. I've seen this before. It's entirely possible when you play the move d5, you trap the opponent's queen. If you don't see queen b6, it's just like...
There's queen a5 too, right?
Then I can't explain it at all. Queen a5 is a good move as well. That just... In fact, queen a5
might be a better one
than queen b6.
Yeah,
but oh my goodness, what a strange miss.
I think it's just a blunder. I
do too.
Yeah, I don't know what he thought he had or what there was, but the knight was attacked.
Should have moved it.
Should have moved it out of the way.
Tell us about the pairings for the B group.
Yeah, with that shocking turn in the A group, looking over at the B group pairings, we have some interesting things to look at as well. So Melik is playing Josiah. Harshit Raja is playing one of our leaders in Irina Krush, so that's definitely a game we'll keep an eye on.
Right.
Begum has a chance against Brewington Hardaway. Alice Lee takes on Steven Zierk, and then our key matchup for the day is the one between the youngster Andy Woodward, Grandmaster-elect, playing Akshat Chandra, Grandmaster in full. And
Grandmaster in full.
they have themselves an interesting position here.
Okay, let's do a refresh and do it.
So this is some analysis we were looking at.
Right.
But in the game, they've ended up in a little bit of a different spot here.
Okay, we left it around these parts as we were coming on the broadcast, and our focus had been on the move bishop takes d6, followed by the move rook c6. Bishop d2 was Andy's choice, and after knight c4, Andy said, I'm going to capture that.
So yeah, knight c4 was the reason why I wanted to capture that knight on d6.
Exactly.
But this makes a lot of sense from Andy because I was struggling to activate that light squared bishop, and now that we've gotten rid of the d5 pawn,
right,
mission accomplished. It just cost us a rook.
An exchange, indeed. Queen c7, so I'm threatening, harassing the potential of queen c2. Knight e1 looks like a good move. No, rook c1. Ooh, not sure I like that follow-up. Not the greatest fan of the exchange sacrifice, but okay. Here, in this particular case, I might make some type of an argument that if I can plant the bishop on c6, I'm good. He played rook c1, and intriguingly enough, Akshat said, I like the initiative. I will do this. So now it's 2 rooks versus queen and pawn.
Yeah, so another change in material.
Right. The imbalance keeps shifting.
This time around, I think I'd still prefer white here.
Okay, the most natural move in the position, of course, is to double the rooks along the first rank. So rook c8 is step 1. Let's double the rooks.
I might get checkmated. I didn't think so, but I might. So what I wanted on a perfect day, I was just going to go king g2.
Yep. On a perfect day, and I will hasten.
And I was just going to move my e-pawn, let's say to e4.
Yep. And I will
At first, I thought bishop e2. I guard all the squares on this, all the important squares here. But g4 not only attacks my knight, but if my knight moves, my king is short on squares.
Then you're crying. That's exactly right.
So some problems left to solve then.
Still some problems left to solve. That's right. So rook c1, bishop f1. I'm anticipating rook c8. It's not the only move. In an ideal world, I would like to play knight c5. Just that comes with the tempo.
Sure.
Move and, something of this nature. Again, with that g4 concept. Here you have knight d2 and other things that disturb me. So while I do feel like this is the most natural move on the position, there might be something to be said for rook d8. Just potential. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this game, very, very imbalanced. I think it could go either way.
Three results.
I
think results are fair.
I would say the pressure's a little bit on black to prove something. If white manages to organize the pieces, this d4 pawn is going to be a pretty big asset. At some point, we're going to push through with d5 and try to make a passer. But, of course, with the 2 rooks and the pressure on the first rank, Andy has a lot of consolidating to do.
Indeed. I'll just add one other thought to everything that you've just mentioned. And for me, I'm very, very cognizant of bishops of opposite color. Why? Because I feel whenever we have a bishops of opposite color position with lots of other pieces on the board, somebody's playing a piece down.
Sure.
Right? And the person who's playing a piece down is the defender. So if I have an attacking position and I have a dark square bishop, and you have a light square bishop, and you can't defend the dark squares. So in this particular case, it's also one of those who has the initiative, who's on the attack, and I think it's still up in the air at the moment. If you had your king on g2, your bishop on d3, your queen on e4.
Different story.
Like maybe black's in trouble because you can defend the dark squares, but you can't defend the light squares. This is a different story. At the moment, we'll see if Akshat can coordinate his rooks.
Absolutely. So I think Hong in big trouble in the A group, so bad news for Leader. The good news is, at worst, he's tied for first if he loses this game.
It helps when you win your first 2 games.
Built himself up a little bit of a buffer.
Let's go to the game of Irina, because she also is tied for first at the moment, coming into the day's round. And
of course, Irina won a very nice game against Melik yesterday in the Benko Gambit. Got a chance to have her on the show. Let's see how she's doing against Raja.
Yes. Now, a warning here, because when we were coming on the studio, I got a kind of a peek ahead, and it was one of those, I want to say, Fischer King's Indian attacks, where you go e5 and rook e1 and stuff like that. But Raja messed up really badly, like just really, really badly. Guess what? He just ended up blundering his pawn.
Pawn's attacked 3 times.
And he didn't want to play bishop f4. He just thought that was too ugly. Knight takes f4 and away you go. So he said, gotta do it. Gotta throw away my pawn. He went knight a3. Thank you for the pawn. Thank you, thank you. Bishop e4. And so literally white has blundered badly out of the opening and is probably close to lost. Okay?
Okay.
End of story. Except that Irina played like 3 bad moves in a row. And
Oh,
it's like, no, Irina, what are you doing? Bishop D. She went back with her queen. You know, normally speaking, you always wait for a move like knight c4 or f4. You wait because in this position, you're not, as white, you're not obliged to play knight c4 anymore. Maybe you could even think knight d5, right? So I really don't like queen c7, h4, and I really don't like this move. I mean, this was like, oh no, this was a stunner. And suddenly, after knight c4, I start to wonder who's better. Because if white gets to play h5, I mean, this is let's say I play a bad move. It doesn't matter. Just a really, really, really bad move. I mean, you're signing score sheets. Knight d6
is in.
And then, I mean, it's shocking. You can blunder a pawn.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, and h5?
h5 is
bishop,
odd, yeah.
Yeah, bishop g5, bishop d6. By the way, again, it's just as we're coming on air, you know, if you wanted to take and play bishop to f4 and let's just put one more move on the board and castles, I'm feeling really good with white. I'm feeling like I got 95.
I mean, the e6 pawn, the g6, h5, g7 structure, it's just rough. I was going to say, though, talking to some students and some kids, very often this thing will happen where they blunder a pawn, and then, okay, their opponent, it's kind of complicated. They take some time to go take the pawn, and the next thing you know, they have some activity for it, because whenever you take a pawn, it does cost you time. And then after the game, they're showing you the game, and here I sacrificed this pawn for this activity. They just didn't see it was attacked.
There we go. Bishop g5.
Maybe GM games not that different.
Well, in this particular case, what was really egregious is you just have to ask yourself, could and should I have taken the pawn on c3? So, for example, knight c4.
I was thinking about cb2 even.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, but
this is...
Maybe it's too much.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, it's definitely something I would consider.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to go h4, h5, and you know, go in that direction, that's perfectly permitted. I was going to be a little bit less aggressive, I would say. Something like this takes, and let's say bishop to e7. You know, just kind of trying to be chill.
Yeah.
You know, again, you can play h4, right? And again, just trying to be chill. Just let's tidy things up a little bit.
Be solid. You
Let's
go
be
h5.
solid.
Are you hoping
H5,
for
knight f8?
Knight f8.
Yeah, just, you know, rolling with the punches. And the most important thing I would say, that the feature of this position is bishop f4 must be met by e5.
Yeah, that's the point of f6, I guess.
Exactly. If that doesn't happen, I'm in trouble. Queen c7, lackadaisical, and very lackadaisical. Bishop d7. It was almost like, gee, I don't even know what you're doing to me. I mean, the bishop is maybe not good here at all.
Yeah, here, I mean, I think bishop e7 would have been perfectly fine for black. Just, I think it's really important that we meet h5 with that knight f8 move.
Exactly.
And then, okay, we don't have e5 in some instances, but, you know, bishop f4, queen d8. We just keep it together for a second.
Solid, solid. None of this happened because Irina fell, in our opinion, into a very, very bad position. Rook c1, bishop b4, king f1. And the sad part is, okay, for our viewers, this is probably one of the most important concepts that they'll ever be told. And it's shocking to me that they don't get this in the simplified way I'm going to tell you. There are thousands of books on openings, and you can choose your openings. But out of those thousands of books, they don't tell you the three things that you need. There are three goals in the openings that you should always adhere to. The first goal is you, whether you're white or black, you want your fair share of the center.
Of course.
You want to control central squares. Second, you want good development for your pieces. Your pieces have to be on effective squares. If you play as white, knight f3, knight h4, and knight g2 in the opening, you will look at the knight on g2 and say, why did I put the knight on g2? It's not effectively placed. So you want effective squares, good development for your pieces, your fair share of the center, good development, and a safe king.
Safe king.
Those are your three goals. That's it. At the end of the, and how do you know when the opening is over? Your rooks are connected. That's very simple.
Okay.
Okay. You look at this position, and you say to yourself as black, where am I going with my king?
Especially...
You haven't answered one of the key questions.
Especially after bishop g6 and the f-pawn takes.
Right.
And it's like, ee.
Well, in this case, you're not castling... First of all, castling queenside is illegal, and it's ill-advised anyway. There is an open C file, after all. Castling kingside, h5 is as tender as can be. So your king is really stuck. White's pieces are effective. Bishop on e4, knight on c4. You would like to play king g2 and bring the rook on h into play. Black's pieces are not effective. So the opening has been a disaster, and wow, bishop takes g6.
I guess h5...
Wild horses couldn't have stopped me from capturing that pawn.
Yeah, h5 is attacked.
What? I guess it's bishop c6.
What could it be?
There's no, I mean, you really can't make any other move, can you here?
Can you make the move bishop c6?
I don't even know if you maybe not, but queen takes h. Wow, how do you not play queen takes h5? I mean, that just does everything, and it just gives you a winning attack on a silver platter. I'm thinking bishop c6. You can, we'll just go back and forth just a little bit.
Yeah, and
I'll drop back.
Assuming white doesn't have any knockouts there, just queen back to e2,
I
h5.
want to go h5, h4. Later, I'll criticize myself for not, making a combination. But if I don't have to, I can go bang, bang, bang.
You don't have to at all here.
It looks really, really good. If you want to take on e4, I'm not saying that's advised, but queen takes e4. Again, h5, h6, easy, easy peasy.
And queen c6 here leads to some unpleasant stuff, I think.
Right.
For black.
Let's start, well, once again with the most...
I wanted to get the queen off the board before it took my king off the board.
Okay.
And I guess knight e7.
And now your question is
I'm already
a3.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do something like f6 at some point. And
we're not happy campers.
Not at all.
Probably I could throw in h6 just to try to get, the old standard bishop on f6 and the rook on h8. Checkmate.
Maybe I have time to play knight g6 back. Maybe I don't.
Maybe you don't. I'll take.
Yeah, I can't take back. So I guess it would be rook fc8, and then
bishop f6.
You've got bishop f6.
And this is the old... Yeah. This is... I studied Fred Reinfeld's checkmates, 1,000 mates, or whatever they are. Looks really, really good for white. White did not do this.
White chose bishop takes g6 instead.
Which is quite a remarkable decision. Okay, he makes knight e5 with a gain of tempo. Yeah. The queen is under attack.
Okay, maybe this is also really, really bad for black.
Probably, although...
So you have to move your dark squared bishop.
Okay.
And then I think it's just takes on g6, and queen takes h5 is next.
Well, knight takes d7, right? Isn't
Oh,
that the
bishop
goal?
d6 was played. I thought
We were going
I kept
bishop
thinking
a5.
these strong grandmasters would put their pieces on squares where they're not hanging.
Right?
But there are no rules.
There are no rules. Bishop to d6. Okay, so first of all, what you were saying, Caleb, is that you were all
I thought
revved.
maybe bishop a7, and I was ready to take on g6 and go for this type of thing.
Knight e7 check.
Knight e7, the rook on f8's hanging, queen h5 is there.
Is on your agenda. So Irina looked at this position and said, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead to rights. So
So that's why bishop d6.
She has played the move bishop to d6, and she's saying, okay, we've been seeing some piece sacrifices or blunders, but in this particular case, I think that Irina made the right decision because knight takes g6 was too overwhelming.
Looked very good. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe,
Just too overwhelming.
There is nothing. Nothing you could do there.
Okay, in this case, she's saying, look, if I can get rid of that knight, well, if I can win back the piece, I'm fighting. So is there a knockout here?
Yeah, and I guess we should mention the key difference with bishop d6 instead of bishop a5 is if you go for the same thing, you go for knight takes g6.
Yeah, bishop a5, knight takes, you've
So
got the
that
threat
knight e7
Yes.
is the difference, right?
Right.
The bishop on d6 guards against that. So after
Right.
knight takes g6, I think it's rook f3 is probably what would
Not
be the
bad.
reply.
Not-
And
not-
then black is in it.
Yeah, I think that suddenly the fight is suddenly quite severe. Rook f3 is one move. You also start to imagine ideas of bishop h3 potentially. After all, when you play g3 and you miss the light squared bishop, don't be surprised if you get tagged. you know.
enough.
But you're right. Rook f3 is a prelude, just to block.
Yeah, I was just worried about queen h5.
Yeah,
is
however
my reason
temporarily.
for
Yeah.
that.
And rook f3 does have some bite to it. This is a 3-result game.
So knight d7, rook f7, and we were thinking, is there a way for white to save this piece?
Right. Because I would not have made the decision bishop takes g6. I would have played queen h5 and lorded over the position.
This seems like a nice find by Irina.
Yes.
I
Definitely.
think a lot of players would have just lost right there.
Yeah.
Would have just said, oh, it's just over. But bishop d6, keeping that knight hemmed in.
Yeah. Now, white is for choice. Don't get me wrong. White is better, but it wasn't the win that you had in mind. So a move like rook e1 threatens knight e5, and okay, I'm back in business. So rook takes, queen takes, queen takes, rook takes. I don't know. I'm just going to put a move on the board, and I'm going to come back. And I'm going to say, I'll play king g2, and you have a pawn on d4, and you have double g-pawns, and I'm slightly better. I'm slightly better.
Yeah.
But it was not the win.
It doesn't feel like
That
what
queen
we
h5.
doesn't feel like what we should have gotten.
No,
Definitely.
we
like,
kind of
you know,
cashed in our chips.
That position, like king f7, bishop e7, come back to f6 or something, and
I can't fault Raja too much in the sense that he saw this position in his mind's eye from afar. He thought a3 drives the bishop away from the e7 square.
Yeah.
You can't play bishop c5 because I can, for example, just capture and capture.
Yeah, if we can back up a couple moves though before a3. So right before a3, so knight e5 I liked.
You did.
Yes, queen d6 was played.
Yep.
And did he go a3 here?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so instead of that, I'm wondering why not knight takes g6 directly?
Probably something similar as you've explained. Anytime we can get a piece to the f3 square and block that killer queen h5, go for it. Just do it.
Yeah, so here it'd be a lot to sacrifice the rook and go queen h5.
Well, h1 is hanging,
Yeah.
right? So rook takes c6, queen takes c. If you took with the pawn, queen takes h5 is a pretty nice sacrifice. I'd probably be all happy with that. Unfortunately, this is coming with a nasty, nasty threat.
Yeah, so not so easy, I guess.
I think a more salient question would have been, in this position, can I play a3 right away?
Yeah. And then...
Ask the question of where are you going?
Does the bishop go?
Right. That is a very key question. Where is the bishop going in this case?
Because, of course, if you try the same, if you try bishop d6, now knight e5 is a different story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's no... Yeah, now the question is, can we do something similar?
Well, here knight e5 is different. Different than the game.
Right.
Because we've got this pin on the c file, and now again you have a couple problems.
Right.
You have to fix
Knight
your bishop.
C6
And
and queen e4.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. None of this happened. Let's just get
Yeah,
to the game
it felt like there had to
position.
be something better for white, even after this bishop g6, but...
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
here.
Hold on. I think that might be our analysis. Apologies.
No, they've gone in for this.
They've gone right for that. So white's better, but boy, he sure looked like he had bingo.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have bingo.
Some nice defensive skills from Irina.
And oftentimes, you know, we really laud brilliant games and stuff like that, but making of a champion is often not so much as winning brilliant games as here it comes, saving bad positions.
Yeah.
If you can struggle and fight and save a bad position, that's a half a point each time you manage to achieve that. That's big, because you're not going to win all your winning positions, but if you can save the bad ones, you know.
That half point counts just as much as the half point you get for checkmating somebody.
That's exactly right.
So who else do we have in the B group? So we've seen our two leaders. We've got a few other games to look at as well.
Okay, I'm just going to do my events.
So we've got Melik playing Josiah.
Let's take a... Wow!
Seems to be heading towards...
I mean, whoop, we went right into the ending. This could be just lost.
Looks complicated. Lost for who? Lost for black?
For white.
Lost for white? Well...
G3.
G3.
G2. G1.
I guess so. G3, so HG3, HG3, I guess is the idea.
So in these rook endings, and we've got passed pawns, whose pawns are the most dangerous? I'm looking at blacks, and I'm going, dang. HG, you tell me.
And you just can't stop the G pawn. You can take F3 any which way, but
G2?
You can't get back to the first rank.
G1, and life's good.
So I guess it has to be King F2 only move.
King F2 box, G3, King G1, or HG, HG.
Yeah, we'll take first, I guess.
And then King
G1 and...
Nobody believes this. Wow, these pawns are just, they're there. But maybe...
How simple
is it? Maybe it's not so simple.
Yeah, F2, King G2. And if our rook were on the D file, we would go rook D1 and win the game. But
indeed,
it's not.
It's not. Okay, that is... Okay, and king and pawn endgames aren't going to be winning. Jeez. Maybe I was too enthusiastic about the passed pawns.
I guess rook F3 has to be it.
More or less forced, right? Because the problem is when I take this pawn, the desirable king G3 hangs the rook. So that was why we played rook F3.
I'm wondering about stuff.
Yes, we're both wondering about stuff.
So number one is king E5, giving up the F7 pawn and just trying to bring in the king. I think that's something you have to think about.
I think this is winning. King E5.
So rook F7 seems like what you would do.
Okay, rook F4. So I'm threatening queen. No
That's
choice.
A good threat.
That's a big threat. Now E6, king here. And you're just a tempo away.
Yeah, that's not going to do it.
That's not going to do it. So...
so I can't take F7, but if I can't take F7, I think I lose the game, right?
C5, rook
F4.
Rook takes, king takes, C6, king E3.
This time you're in time.
C7, King e2. Ah, now we are in time. Okay. Doesn't matter if we're in a worse ending, queen ending, or not. At least
we're happy.
we don't have to resign. So taking
rook
on
f4
f7.
though wasn't really required. So c5.
c5.
Rook
pardon me,
f7.
apologies.
We think
C5.
rook f4 is it, but
c5. Okay.
c5, and can I take e4?
Correct. That is a question. Now, is rook f7
The same or different?
the same or different? Rook f4 takes x, c6 king, c7 king. No, you still, so you can do that. So there's actually two moves here for white. One is c6, f5, c7, rook back, and I think I make a draw with queen.
Okay, takes.
And takes.
That's the magic way.
I don't see how we're going to stop either rook f2 or king f2.
Yeah.
That feels like
good enough.
whoosh. Just
It's
my.
close,
it was
though.
very
It's close.
Let us refresh the position because he has.
Yeah, so that's why rook d8. So
king
again,
f2, rook d8.
if we can get that rook over there,
Because you had said if we played g3, f2, if our rook was on d8, we were winning nicely. So rook d8 first.
My issue with this
Yes.
was rook f4.
Rook f4.
And
Let's do it.
Trying to force some issues.
So check.
I'll just go to f1.
And let's stop.
Yeah, so if you do anything else, I'll take your g4 pawn. If you go g3, I'll take, and I'll take your f3 pawn. So rook g2, I think, is forced.
Just a second, just a second. Sorry, one of my favorite combinations.
Oh, g3, h3?
Yeah.
Oh,
is
goodness.
the pawn breakthroughs. And I had one of my absolute gems against Cruz in the Olympiad. And I know, sorry, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. We were in a rook and pawn endgame.
Yeah.
And I could analyze it to a king and pawn endgame. And we both had pawns, and it was like 25 moves. And every time I made a move, my teammates got up and ran out. And then they would come back. I'd make another move. They get up, they come back. And it was only like 15 moves into the combination that I saw a lot of smiles. But here, what I was talking about was g3. I just want to double check this, h3. So you don't have time to take because h2 kind of ruins.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. Rook h4 does not help.
h2, and then the goal is to queen and rook d1.
Yeah.
And that looks good.
So I must go king g1 after the check then, because
Okay.
of that idea.
Check king g1. Now the problem is check.
And you've gained a tempo on me.
Exactly.
And if I go back to f1,
and I think you have to, because something like king h1 is just not very nice. I mean, I'm threatening mate on the back rank. So you have to go back to f1. And now that I've gained that tempo, what you just said, so very, very important, I get the time to play king. e5 takes e4. That should be winning. Let me just refresh the board.
I think so. So rook d8 with a serious threat.
You know what my friend Lubosh Kovalik would say about moves like rook d8? With evil intent. With the evil intent.
Now that everybody agrees rook d2 is bad.
Is bad.
Maybe rook d5. And we can try something like that.
I like it. Rook d5. So now we're going to be in a king and pawn endgame. But my question is, I am going to play, my pawns are so advanced. I'm going to...
Play for mate?
Yes, precisely.
So I don't think you can take with the c pawn because black can actually break up this structure with f5. I think you have to take with the e pawn.
Okay, fair. King comes up the board.
And
Temporary move. It doesn't matter. Yeah. King comes up the board.
so now I can go d6.
Right.
And the
G3.
question is it checkmate?
That is the question. Check. Now, where do we go with the king?
F1 feels slightly more natural.
Okay. King, d7, and this looks like another one of those games where we're both making queens. Yeah.
Yeah, just in time.
And I won't claim anything special here. It's just that we're both making queens, and that's a good thing for white. So rook d5, maybe I don't trade rooks?
I'm not totally convinced that black isn't winning there.
And me too.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering,
tell me if I did something
what if we
wrong.
leave the king on e5 for a moment, and let's throw in f5 and then f4, just for laughs.
Okay, f5 and f4 for laughs. So it's time to go, right? Let's go.
Can you? Oh, c5 and then now c6 and you have a4 after king d6. Okay.
Yes.
So c5, I'll try g3 instead.
G3 instead. Munch.
And if I take h2
And then I have to go
and f3.
Munch. I think this is another one of those where
I
we're
think
both making queens.
you're going to get the queen at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're both making queens, just to say.
So king e4 is d6.
Right.
And f2. King e3. Then h3.
H3. If you queen with check, life is good.
Yeah,
So
but king g3. And your king got out. It's really close.
It was
It's very, very close. So
this might be winning for white because your pawns are actually in the way of checks. Remember, we were having this conversation yesterday about how queen endings have their own rules.
Yeah.
That are in total violation to the other rules that we learned. Great stuff going on here.
So Melik has a lot to think about, but maybe at the end of the day, he'll just see that there's nothing besides rook d5.
Exactly.
So you play it, and your opponent has to decide if the king and pawn endgame does it.
Exactly.
But of course, you were going to say black doesn't have to take the rook.
No.
It's just the first thing you look at because it ends the game if it works.
If it works, it ends the game. I suspect, if I could just reach into the mind of Joshua for just a moment, I suspect he might be having thoughts of rook d6 and just saying, oh, but there is h3, right? Can we play h3?
White has a threat in h3, I think.
Yeah, because we don't get to play f5 or g3 or any of those things. Rook d... No, that's just not doing it for me. One more look, just a second. Rook takes, whoops, excuse me. Rook takes d5, e takes d5, king e5, b4, temporizing move. Now,
so how did it go? So what if I play a weird move, or you have an idea?
Yeah, I think it's useful f5. So I want to play queen g4 mate in a certain variation. So we play b5.
b5. So I had this idea king e4.
Right.
And my point was g3.
Right.
And the same thing you thought with h3 instead of recapturing.
Right.
But white is just faster.
That's the problem, right?
So maybe hg instead, like you.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe this.
I was proposing hg, king takes, king e3.
But it's just
d7, but the
just
same
faster.
thing. You're just fast enough. Queen, and again, if I had ideas of queen g4, they're good ideas, but it's white to move, and that's the bad news. Wow. Okay. I'm struggling to see it.
If black doesn't want any of this, though, at the very least, I think he can repeat with rook g8. And I think white might come back.
No question there. One more look here. Is there any reason why king f4 in this line is a little different? You take it, right? And we played last time king f1?
King f1 was our move.
Okay.
And we said king e3.
Because it looks like the most logical and natural move. And again, here we do queen ourselves with check.
Yeah.
The pawn is on f5, so queen. Apologies for getting caught up in this is the checkmate. Why I was trying to get.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
So
and again, you're being very compliant.
we have to go to h2.
Right.
And then
we just have some random queen ending. It's just that the king is a little bit. Wow, actually,
king f2. There's no checks.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess we'll play queen g8, and that's how we want to defend. So something like king h3.
King h3.
Oh, and we have a results.
And
Well, black has won.
wow.
What
Okay,
happens?
let's see what happened. Ooh.
h3, gh, and resigns.
Oh no, we saw this. He played h3. This was
Yeah,
our analysis. Rook d2 with evil intentions.
Right.
Remember the evil intentions? There they are.
Just gh.
You're threatening
Yeah, that's
h2,
it's an
h1.
unfortunate miss from Melik. I think definitely rook d5. Like that king and pawn endgame. At first glance, you think it's just lost.
Right.
Like you think there's no way like black is gonna checkmate you, but
Right.
you gotta calculate it.
Yes, yes. And while rook d8 was a really good move, I also had the feeling that the most direct might have also been gold. We'll double check that with the engine later. But this just felt
this way
like
of going
also...
And rook f3, we were trying. And
King e5, which was this nice idea of rook f4.
so c5 was our move here to try to get out. But
Right?
yeah.
And then what did we do? We did something clever.
I don't think we found the win for white. Or for black.
We didn't.
Or we did. I don't know.
What
Yeah, I
did we
think
do?
it was king e4. No, we got to a draw. We were going to take
King
and go
E4,
rook g8,
right.
and then rook f2 was happening. So
Right.
that's why we decided on rook d8. But, you know, there were obviously some things skipped over
Definitely.
on the road to get here.
On the road to get here. Wow. Nice win at the end there. That
Yeah.
G takes H3. Very, very
Well
satisfying.
done by Josiah. Maybe we'll
Exactly.
be able to get him in the studio a little later
for
on
sure.
to talk about all these calculations.
Because it's a very, very intriguing rook ending at the end of this. What else do we
with
have?
that, Andy Woodward has won his game.
Well, that was fast. Andy against
So
Akshat.
I was saying
this was the exchange sacrifice.
I was saying I
game,
liked
remember?
White's position, but Black had some serious activity.
And we were talking, or I was mentioning, whoever is the one that gets the
Attack.
initiative, who has the attack, is a piece up thanks to the bishops of opposite color. D5 is how Andy attacked Akshat, captures queen f5. Guess who's on the attack? Well, again, I was saying if we had our bishop on d3 and things like that nature, knight f6, defending the pawn. Okay.
Knight b3 is nice because that
That's a
finally
tempo on the rook.
puts the rook c1 ideas to bed. The
Ooh.
doubling up on the first rank,
That-
you can't do it with the knight on b3.
But
Oh, with the idea of a4.
right, rook to d1 again, just keeping. The rook is hanging.
The rook is attacked. I agree.
Yes. The rook is hanging, and so no me gusta now.
All of a
knight-
sudden,
Even
White
knight
has
takes
3 good pieces.
queen starts to be almost sound, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Knight
gosh.
takes our own queen.
Yes,
With
knight-
initiative.
with a great initiative. The knight is so
Yeah.
good.
White just has 3 good pieces now. Bishop d3 will come, and yeah, there's no move. There's just no move.
a very, very nice example of the bishops of opposite color working for the side with the initiative. Knight on f5 is just brilliant.
One thing we didn't mention, the two rooks, I think the rule is maybe they're a little bit better than the queen in a lot of cases. But the one thing the queen excels at is the attack.
Yes.
And you saw Akshat was trying to coordinate those rooks on the first rank, like we were looking at, but white got the queen centralized, and then all of a sudden, black is checkmated.
I do have, sadly, for Akshat fans, the very, very strong impression that Akshat just collapsed here. Yeah. And that the move e6 takes d5 was far too compliant. So I'm a little bit afraid of e6 d5 takes e6. So let's imagine that he had just played, for argument's sake, knight to c5 here.
Yeah, maybe queen d4?
Queen d4.
I was going to mention maybe g4 was a little bit mistimed earlier. Because my idea is just to take that
take the pawn on g4. I'm happy that my knight is nicely, secure on the c5 square. Okay, shall we just have a quick peek at h5?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can try to make a queen. I'll go d6.
d6, and should I put my bishop on d8 or g5? I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet. I do want to play rook d1, of course.
Yeah, I might play a strange f4 move and bring my knight back to f3 if you capture me.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Just getting some space to breathe around my king.
I don't like the tempo that you just. I kind of gave up. Okay. Oops. Excuse me. Apologies. Bishop back. d7, rook d8. Clear.
Fair enough. So I guess I kind of don't. I don't really want to trade my knight, but your knight is really strong.
My knight is strong. My knight is strong. No question about that.
Maybe I need to play an e3 move. Okay. I think I need to start the process of getting my bishop out. But I mean, the difference is night and day. As long as that rook sits on c1, white doesn't have this free hand to attack.
Exactly.
I think that was the moment where
this feels much more like resistance.
It's not only resistance, like white could still lose this game.
It's a 3-result game, and I'm just saying that unfortunately for Akshat, he just e6 takes d5, queen f5.
The f5
is too compliant. The f5 square is it's too strong. It's just simply too strong.
Yeah, and if you imagine the white knight still in f3 and the black pawn still in g5, even then this would be a bit different, right?
Yeah.
Like that's giving white this critical tempo a lot of the time. But I believe we have a special guest joining us in just a moment.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you.
We're going to trade out, and as you're trading out for our wonderful guest,
we have another couple games to look at that we haven't gotten to yet.
I'll take a quick glance at Alice Lee versus Stephen. And sorry, but this is, again, one of those absolutely confusing games. This is where a piece got sacrificed, and I'm just utterly confused by this whole game between Alice and Stephen. And as we're getting our guest mic'd up, let me just bring in, oops, that's not the game I wanted. Where are we?
Should have been a game I won, though.
Nice. This is the game with Melik, right? Today.
Yep.
Josiah, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
nice
good to be here.
Nice to have you aboard. Congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
Take us through the game. What happened?
So he surprised me kind of early on. I mean, he's been kind of mixing it up. Yesterday he played the Banco, which
what was that?
Yeah, he hasn't played that since like the 1990s. And then
the throwback.
Yeah, and then the first round he played Exchange French. Right. So I kind of figured he would surprise me early on, but at the same time I was sort of prepared for this. He played knight c3, and then in this classical kind of rouser he chose bishop e2 instead.
Right.
And then here he's played knight b3 before.
Right.
And then I was somewhat prepared for there, at least for the ideas.
Right.
And then he played knight f3 quite quickly. So I assume he knew like at least something here. And I haven't prepared this before.
Oops, sorry, that was not what I wanted to do.
So I was trying to figure out what the main ideas were, like what the differences between the knight on b3 and f3 are. And I don't think like I evaluated it correctly at first, though the position I got was totally fine. I realized that after knight f3, he might be trying to play bishop g5. Right. Because I saw that after bishop e7, if the knight was on b3, bishop g5, I can maybe meet it with knight e4. So now I don't have this. So, but then for whatever reason, I just played bishop e7 immediately, and then he played bishop g5, and I was like, wait, I'm just like worse here or something. So,
Grandmaster John Vanderville, he really enjoyed playing these positions as white. And the strange part was when he would put his knight back on f3 in order to play bishop c4. Which is just like, like, wait a minute, you went bishop e2 to c4, dude. Yeah, but he's induced you to play e5. So here are a lot of moves. Bishop e7, bishop e6, h6.
I was thinking h6, which might have been pretty logical given how the game went.
But those all are standard, including the move you played.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question that this is still perfectly acceptable.
So yeah, now I went for the plan h6, and basically my point was I knew knight d5 was coming. And then I would play g6 and basically give him the choice. Right. Because here there's a big choice. If he allows me, if he allows me to play bishop g7, then he has to worry about f5. Right. Like, even the bishop on g7 is not a very good piece. Maybe later on it could be a very strong piece.
Exactly.
And he thought for a long time here. He spent like 20 minutes or so and decided to take. But I was very happy with my position here. Exactly. I think that like his knight on f3 actually is kind of misplaced. It takes probably quite a few moves for it to get to where it really wants to be.
Exactly.
Now here actually was probably my first decision that I really made in the game. King g7, or I was thinking about g5, which I ended up playing later on. And I wasn't sure. The reason I didn't play g5 here is because I thought maybe c3 and the knight comes to e3.
So you're just chasing the knight.
Well, no, I wouldn't play that because now the knight actually wants to go to c2 and then e3.
Exactly.
And then I wasn't so happy about that. And so then here I was like, well, why did I play g5?
Right. Good question.
So I played king g7.
Okay.
And then he played rook a d1, and then played bishop b5 like very quickly.
Bishop b5.
Yes, bishop b5. Oh, sorry, queen e3, bishop e6, then bishop e5. Bishop e5 here.
Wow.
And then I was like, I thought I was pretty happy with him taking on c6.
Right.
So my other option here was to play knight e7, to then go g5, knight g6, try to get an attack like that. Maybe knight on f4 can also help with a d5. Okay. Maybe I could have gone for this, but I was kind of annoyed by queen a3 there.
Okay.
As an option.
So
I played g5, and I was basically welcoming him to take. He very quickly played rook e1, but then I think he missed the dynamics here. I think white's definitely fine here, if maybe still slightly better, but he needs to stop d5, right?
That was my question. Should he stop d5, or should he?
Well, at some point. At some point.
Let me just ask the salient question. You don't want to play c5, do you, Josiah?
I mean, I don't think so, because then maybe he could play like a c4 at some point.
Yeah.
And then the knight could very long time get to e3, and then the knight would be so powerful. So
the reason I'm asking you this question is, like, let's say I play d5 and I have a very clear idea. I want to, I don't know, focus?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking here of playing something like d4,
Right.
But then there's queen c5 here.
That's what I was hoping for, to kind of post up.
So my ideal would be like something like that, and then get f6 in somehow.
Right.
And then like, play on the queen side a little bit.
Rook to e1, bishop to g4, rook to d3.
But here d5 comes not just with d5, but with tactics, which is, I think, is the main issue and what he had missed.
And for sure, he was probably thinking before you've played d5, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to play b3. I'm going to play c4.
Exactly, like a slow grind,
Right. But d5...
and so here he thought for a while, he does not have to take.
Right.
By no means. Like, another move I was looking at was knight d2, which I thought was very logical.
Okay.
And then here, for example, d4 is probably a move I was going to play. I was maybe going to throw in rook b8 first. Like, maybe throw in rook b8, rook a b8.
Right.
b3.
I'll be compliant.
Yes, d4.
And now
here I cannot go bishop e6. Not that the bishop wants to be there, though, because rook f3. So I was going to go bishop c8.
Bishop c8.
Because now it's coming to a6.
Right.
And so here, actually, I was pretty happy, because I think I'm going to get my f6 in.
Just go ahead and give us the variation.
Well, here I go bishop ace. Bishop a6 is rook f3.
That was my intention, of course. Bishop a6 looks like a pin.
Yeah, but
get
then
out
rook
with a
f3.
tempo.
I had missed this. But then again, I don't have to play.
Right. This is from the start
Yes.
where after d5 we were looking at knight d2. In the game, he is captured.
Yes, because he calculated all the way to the end game, as did I, and he
Really?
misevaluated.
Really? So all of this was both of your calculations?
Yes, although he told me after the game, actually, he sort of missed rook e8. Like, he knew it was there, but he completely underestimated it.
Okay. So this was a whole series of forcing moves,
Yes.
right to here, here.
So rook e8 was the move that he kind of underestimated / missed.
Okay, so his evaluation was that he's okay.
Okay, and actually, like, I asked him, like, oh, were you trying to play for a draw with taking on d5? Because he had many other options there.
Right.
And he's like, no, I thought I was fine, maybe even better.
Maybe he's playing
push,
h4 and king to g3 on a good day.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got this ending, and tell me when you thought, did you think you were winning here?
I didn't think I was winning.
No.
But I certainly thought that with the pawn on f3, if I get g4 safely, that there's no way I cannot be winning.
Okay, so king e6. Whoa,
Yeah,
that's
so
a big move.
It's a
right?
big move, but the thing is let's say he plays a normal move like
Rook
d4. I'm going to go f5.
Right.
And his pawns are so slow because my rook actually is very good. And now g4, and now h5. But okay, here, now I go h5. I mean, I can even go f4 too, to be honest. But okay, h5 is what I was going to...
Okay, h5 I was going to take.
Okay, now I take.
And check you.
King g6.
And
the rook's coming either on the e file or d file.
true that, yeah.
So your
True
rook
that.
probably will have to go to d2 at some point,
Right.
and
so-
then I'm just going to come in.
Yeah, I like the two because
So,
your pawns are so good here.
I mean, it's obviously impossible for me to calculate all of that, but I
Right.
was pretty confident in that position. So he played e4 with the intention of basically like
trying to trade.
still trying to win the f3 pawn.
Right.
And so here what he had missed, if we go back,
Yep.
so after e4, rook c4, I thought the better try here was rook d4,
Okay.
which is very annoying because my initial thought was I'll just trade in the endgame. Take, and then here like f5.
Right.
But actually I have to be careful not to lose here because now e5.
Okay.
And then it's very annoying that actually white stops this configuration with a well-timed h3.
Okay.
So, and then the important thing is that we'll see it later in the game, but I can't I can't go king d5, king e4 with the idea of queening my
E6
pawns
and
because
queen.
e8 comes with queen with check in
With
a lot
check.
of in a lot of variations.
Gotcha.
So
Against rook d4.
so against rook d4, rook c5 was the plan. Similarly to how the game went a couple moves later, rook c5 was the plan. And I'm still going to get g4 in. My rook on c5 is very well placed, stopping b4, controlling the 5th rank, and then it can also swing to h5 should it need to.
Okay.
It can also swing to g5 as it did in the game.
Right.
And I was pretty confident in my chances here.
Still, it requires calculation.
G4?
Like g4, h3,
Yeah,
h5,
now h5.
king g3,
Um,
dreaming.
Yeah, so if something like king g3, then I can always go like rook g3 and I'm threatening h4 check.
I beg your pardon. You can.
Oh, sorry, rook
always-
g5, rook g5,
Rook
and I'm
G5.
threatening h4 check.
And I'm taking.
Yeah, so this, I think this is definitely what he should have gone for because now after hg, my configuration is pretty.
I'll go b4 and I'll get a
Yeah.
queenside. Like something like this, because you got a much superior variation of this in the game. So let's just see what happened in the game because.
So
after-
basically, he forgot about. He would not have gone for this if he had seen rook
Rook D-
c5. Sorry, h5 here, king f2, and then rook c5 here. Because now it's rook strat.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
But I want to point out another thing though, which is why
Please.
I think he should have played rook d4, is that instead of playing this as well after rook c4, rook f5, I'm pretty sure that I can even take on. Oh, sorry, rook f5, rook f5.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, rook f5. Like another thing that I was thinking was that I can even take on e4 here,
Which is a nice ending.
which is a nice endgame because my king is with the pawns. His pawns are a lot farther behind, and oftentimes in these like opposite side races, whoever is like more advanced.
Yeah,
Is
good.
good. And also, white's king there is actually a detriment rather than a help because it can oftentimes get mated.
Exactly.
Right?
You can-
So I also thought that this was even good for me, though I
Yes.
didn't want to work for it. I didn't want to play this because I thought the other variation was cleanly winning.
Okay.
But I was telling him after the game that like, in my opinion, like even that was like probably win it.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought rook d4 was just a better try.
Exactly.
And so here he almost tricked me. So if we go back to rook f5, so I was aware of the fact that in a lot of these positions where he sacrifices the pawn and he immediately goes h3, so take, king f5, immediately h3. Now it's a draw.
And it's a draw.
Because now I'm not in time to, let's say, play f5, or I'm not in time to, like, mate him with like my pawns.
King e5.
Yeah, the king on e3 is very well placed.
Right.
And so I had actually kind of missed rook f5 here, but I mean, it didn't end up mattering because I still had rook g8 here with the idea now of king f2, rook to d8. Basically, the game's over here. He played h3, and I basically queened the pawn.
We didn't like h3. We were looking mainly at just...
so yeah, rook d5 loses because now I take.
Okay, please
And now
continue.
it's different. So take, let's say you play ed, right?
Yeah.
King e5.
Yes, we were looking at b4.
So you can't go b4 because now I'm going to go h3 myself. And now my pawns are queening very quickly.
So here...
f5.
f5. Ooh, boy. c5.
Well, then I take, right?
Okay, go on. Because we were looking at these.
King d6.
A4.
Yeah, okay, so you're going to stop my king, right? But I'm going to go
Right.
f4, and now g3 is coming.
And then you just tempo me.
With g3. Even now.
Right.
Because now the king is blocked off by all the pawns.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have a lineup of people ready to join us.
so
Josiah, congratulations.
thank you.
Nicely done. And a beautiful endgame win. Good luck in the rest of the
Thank you,
tournament.
Yasser.
And we have quite a number of results coming in as we are going to bring in Andy onto our show as he won against a very strong Grandmaster, Akshat, today. And did it in very fine style. Hi, Andy. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did it go? Tell us what happened.
So I guess it started really, he spent a lot of time in the opening, I guess. And so out of the opening, I was feeling pretty comfortable.
Right.
And then...
It was kind of funny how many transpositions went through here. We had like a Catalan.
Yeah.
Then we had a closed Catalan. Then we transposed into, to my eyes, a Queen's Indian defense, like with the bishop, light squared bishop. And then it almost took on a Dutch stonewall type of structure. Here, I think after the move g5, we had focused on bishop takes d6. You didn't.
Yeah, I guess I looked at it for a little bit. I thought bishop takes d6.
Bishop
Takes
d6,
d6,
rook c6.
Rook c6, knight f6.
Knight f6, okay.
And then I guess I was trying to like find a way to like go
Play
rook
for
c1 and like
rook c1.
knight d2, e4 sort of stuff.
Right.
Because his king's kind of weak.
Exactly.
But every time I go knight d2, he can go bishop b4.
And just drag your knight away from e4.
Yeah.
So this you didn't find attractive. So in the game you decided to go for an exchange sacrifice. Like when you played bishop d2, you expected knight c4,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah.
And you thought, let's go.
Yeah. Well, my first intention was to play bishop e1 or bishop c3.
Okay.
And then I thought rook c8 looks natural.
Right.
And then here I was debating between rook c2 and e3.
Okay.
If rook c2, then knight f6.
Okay.
Rook a c1, threatening knight e5.
Right.
And then queen d7.
Okay.
And then I guess I want to try to go for like queen a4, b3, and rook c6, but here there's knight takes b2.
Oops.
So yeah, so there's,
that's unfortunate.
yeah, and queen a2 loses the pawn.
On b5.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things also when you do get these types of positions and your intention is to play for e4, you always have to be cognizant of the fact that
Yeah.
he might try to shut you down with f5. You did not allow this. You picked up the gauntlet and decided, okay, let's sacrifice an exchange. And how did you evaluate the exchange sacrifice? Like, do you stand better, Andy?
I thought it's probably around closer to equal than me
Okay.
being better, but I thought practically his pieces are kind of tangled and
A little bit, yeah.
like he can't ever move his knight because of knight e5 to c6.
And that's huge.
And yeah, and then like his king's kind of weak. I always have like h-full ideas
Okay.
to try to break open the king side.
Fair. Let's see how the game went because, okay, this looks like a very natural move. He desires to trade queen.
Yeah.
You played rook c1, and he went for another different imbalance of the two rooks versus the queen. We weren't that big of fans of g5 because maybe the knight's not so great on f3. But how did you intend to meet rook c8? That's the big question for us.
Yeah, I was thinking about d5 here.
Okay.
Still d5.
It's similar to the game, and how does this differ, if you will, knight to c5?
Yeah, so queen e3 is what-
Queen e3 was your intention, yeah?
Yeah.
And then something, let's say rook d1, because of course the great dream
Yeah,
is to double on the first, right?
Yeah, and then here I wasn't so sure, but I was looking at like knight d4. Probably not here though because of bishop f6 ideas.
Right.
Also, queen d2 is something I looked at instead of queen e3. I remember that.
Knight c5, queen d2, and okay, again, I'm just dreaming about
Yeah.
you know doubling my rooks. Again, a good day would be for me to be able to play knight to b3
Yeah.
and rook to c1.
And then I thought like king g2.
Okay. But this feels like resistance,
Yeah,
right? Like,
this
and you know, three results,
Yeah.
right? It's not 100% you got this
Yeah.
game in the bag type of thing. We thought that g4 was a step in the wrong. Oh, excuse me. Apologies. G4 was a kind of a. His king's more exposed,
Yeah.
and then after this move, we thought this was a collapse. This was a
Yes.
really, really
Yeah.
bad decision by him, because when you put your queen on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
now you're having the fun.
Yeah,
You've got the bishops of opposite color.
He
in
told
your
me he
favor.
missed queen f5.
It's just such a strong move.
Yeah.
It really is a very, very powerful move. The rest of the game was more or less murderous. I mean, because your move queen e5 making, you know, I was joking with Caleb. I said, you know, a really strong move for white is knight takes f5. Taking your own queen, you
yeah,
got
yeah,
compensation
yeah,
even when you
yeah.
do that. Queen e5, stepping aside for the knight, and you just played. You played
Yeah.
a really good game today.
There was still one more trap actually.
please.
That I think it was at least.
Okay.
So if I don't check on f5, if I go bishop d3 immediately,
Which looks very natural.
I was worried about rook c1 check,
Okay.
king g2, rook d1,
Okay.
and knight f5 check.
Looks good.
Yeah, and then king g8 here. He doesn't have to go king g6. And if I take f6, he has rook cc1. And I have no like,
Pay attention, right?
I think I have none. I mean, maybe I have like some sort of win with like knight e7, bishop h7, and then like keep checking. And but it's not.
It's
the
not
way that I
what
wanna
you
go.
wanted.
Yeah,
No. Nicely done, adroitly avoiding this trap. Andy, you're playing really, really good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show,
Yeah, thank you
and
for having me.
we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
And let's see, we've got more games. We're going to jump to the A group and just check in on what is going on in the A group, because I believe we have Nikolas has won his game. And he did. Welcome back, Caleb. I hope you enjoyed your break.
Yes, absolutely. Some nice interviews there. Good to see Andy and Josiah with some nice games today. And yeah, during those interviews, of course, Nikolas Theodorou, also with kind of a topsy-turvy tournament, manages to
Wow.
win and improve back to 50%.
But what a crazy position. I mean, at first blush, when you're seeing this queen and this bishop piled up on this battery along the light squares, you're like a heart attack central here. Look at this. What a move by e4. Knight takes d4. I mean, the blows are coming hot and heavy.
Yeah, Nikolas Theodorou is one of these psycho people who can play chess like this and not even blink. He's just
Like, this is all standard
This
fare.
is the language he speaks.
Wow. King h2. Basically, we've got the two checkmating squares covered by the rook on e1 as well as the bishop on h3. So the diagonal, well, okay. Now, guess what? g7 is hanging. Guess what? e3 is hanging.
Yeah, this is
Black's
what
king is more in trouble than the white king.
this is what Theodorou does. There was a reason he was one of the most valuable players on the archbishops for so long.
Exactly.
He does this in classical chess, and he's even better at it in rapid chess. He just somehow, when nothing makes sense, he finds the way out.
Wow, these are some great moves. This last move, bishop b6, really has got my attention as well. Defending f2, but far more importantly, just open up the e file, pinning the knight so knight f3 is not lights out. I mean,
Yeah,
knight f3 check would have been lights out. And by the way, that was the move that won the game.
It's
like,
good enough.
it's great. Wow.
Yeah,
That was some razor sharp stuff.
I'll never be like this. I'll never be like this. I don't know how he does this.
But that was impressive. That was
You gotta
impressive.
think like, you know how the doctors all say stress is bad for you? Like he's got to be
Yes.
taking years off his life playing every
Right.
game like this.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Wow. Queen a5 check, king
King
e2.
E2.
Wow. Yeah, the old classic grandmasters would take a look at Nikolas and
This is the
say-
modern era.
you say, you know, like who is this guy? Quick story. Edward Gufeld is playing against Vasily Smyslov,
Okay.
and he's played knight f3, knight f6, c4, and then just a second, I just have to g6, b4, bishop here. And it was something really weird here. I mean, I even wanted to suggest
A4?
A4,
Yeah.
right? And Botvinnik, they're playing in the Soviet Championship, and Botvinnik stood up from his game, walks around the playing hall, inspects each and every game, and he sees this game of Gufeld, and it's really kind of a breach of etiquette. But Botvinnik leans over the position and he looks at Smyslov. Gufeld is gone, but is within earshot.
Sure.
Who is this punk? What's he doing in our tournament?
Smyslov had white or black?
Black.
Oh, okay.
like who's this punk who's going A4, C4, B4?
Get him out of here.
Look at Nikolas. Look at Nikolas putting his king on D2, on E2. Pardon me. I mean, who is this punk?
Center's kind of closed.
Well,
Kind of, I
wow.
guess. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. What a crazed game. I think that both players, sometimes, you know, for me especially, I have no problem losing. I really, really don't. I think that that just comes with the territory. And losing a good game is more than acceptable. Losing a great game. This is a game that you can both take a little bit of pride in. The games that I just can't abide is when I just make a howler, a move that's just so bad that it just ruins the position.
Speaking of, maybe we should check in on our tournament leader,
Yes,
Andrew Hong.
that was a kind of a way of getting to Andrew.
Yeah, we were thinking that Christopher Yoo was just winning.
Right.
Has the situation changed?
Well, let's find out. When we left it, we were just like,
Just kind of floored by this move.
We had
knight
gotten
f4.
Yeah, we had gotten to this position. Our expectation was that queen takes, bishop takes. Andrew would play knight f4, and be, in my opinion, slightly better with
Yeah.
black.
No reason to be unhappy here.
Right.
Active rooks, active knights.
It could absolutely be that after knight f4, he forgot that he was supposed to trade queens. I mean, he just reached for the knight without.
It's got to be something pretty strange because it's
a piece.
Not only, you know, okay, like it's one thing to make a bad sacrifice where you just miss something, but in this position, it's just so unnecessary. Like your position is so good.
Right?
Like,
you
why?
don't need to do this.
Yeah.
We had seen something of these types, and I think we were looking at rook takes h2, I beg your pardon. But this looks like just a plain extra bishop. Well, pardon me, extra knight. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, rook b8
rook
is
b3.
getting stuff back, but the center goes away, and
so he returned the piece for essentially 2 pawns.
Yeah,
Yes.
white is up to two clean
pawns.
ones.
Yeah, and maybe a third, a6.
And indeed a third.
Indeed a third. And yeah, this is completely winning 3 extra pawns. Not 100% sure.
I think we're catching up pretty quickly here.
And
Yeah, so Christopher's taking some time.
I'm assuming
Bishop
bishop
f6
is just good enough. Yeah.
Rook f5 hits 2 pieces, but we have a check to throw in.
Intermezzo.
Yeah.
And that
Extra
should be
piece,
enough.
extra pawn.
And for Andrew, who started 2 out of 2, this will be again one of those results that kind of stick in your craws. You're just like, again, you don't mind losing a good game, and losing a brilliant game is actually more than acceptable. Hanging a piece is not. No. You know, I always say this. People ask me the question often. When did you know you were good? You know, what age or whatever.
Okay.
And I said, I only became good at chess when my opponents had to play well to win.
Yeah.
You know, if up to the point where my opponents could just beat me any which way they wanted, you know, like
it
not
feels like
good.
You know.
Right. But when they suddenly had to play really good, they had to play a good game from start to finish, that was when I started to feel like, hey, I have something.
There's just no worse feeling than when you sit down and it feels like your opponent didn't even try that game, and somehow you've been blown off the board and it's over, and you're like, well,
yeah,
maybe chess isn't for me.
Maybe it's not my thing. We do expect that Christopher is upending our tournament leader, but wait.
So we went for rook c5. That makes a lot more sense. But there is rook d5 is maybe the simplest, returning another pawn, but
I like
getting the
rook
rooks off the board, and maybe even heading towards like a.
The move that I find the most attractive, because I do this all the time. I'm constantly doing this. Is I'm comparing pieces. And I'd like to take off the bishop on g6.
Of course.
So my move would be probably bishop check, king,
Yeah, I thought
and bishop
maybe it's
g6.
not the easiest to do this though.
Because
is there rook d5? You've got a check.
rook d5, I've got a check.
Yeah, I think that.
Not sure that's the check I want.
I don't think so.
b4. If this isn't the
B4,
setup
I'll
I
just
want.
Go bishop c7, I guess.
Right.
And then you're thinking a b5 check.
Yeah, but it's not convincing to me. Yeah, I was looking at this and b5, and again, this isn't at all convincing.
Yeah,
right?
It's not.
I mean,
not it.
Not what I wanted.
I wanted rook d5.
Rook to d5.
Instead of
which
bishop
moment?
b2.
Yes, rook to d5.
So you can take my pawn. You can take it with check.
And you're just,
Anything you please. I'll go king c1.
yeah. And your next move.
Not
is,
afraid of discoveries because I'm capturing that rook next. Then
And
I'm
your
going
queen.
d8. I'm going to have one more bishop than you, and that should be enough.
You had me at having one more bishop than you. Good point. Rook to d5.
Rook c1 also makes sense. Maybe even simpler. You still win the piece, and
Because
this
there's
way
no
you keep
rook
2
d5.
pawns.
You had me at keeping the 2 pawns.
Yeah.
Bishop.
The
and
position's
again,
good enough. I think there's a
Yeah.
few ways to get the job
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
So there's still that
same,
check. Yeah.
That same intermezzo, I don't have to take on d8, but I get to play check. And that's good enough. And this is the current position. Rook c1 on the board.
On the
and
board.
I think Andrew will
We'll
toss in
see.
the towel here.
See resignation, I think. Yeah, Andrew's just a minute on the clock. Sometimes you get this thing where you don't have enough time on your clock to resign.
Right?
But I don't think that's the case here. I think
That's a
it's-
very famous quote. Why didn't you resign? I didn't have the time. I was in time trouble and I was just responding.
And yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You want to be 100% sure the game's over when you resign, and sometimes you don't have time to be sure.
Yeah.
You just keep playing moves. But this will dethrone Andrew and open the door wide open for some other players to catch up. Of course, Christopher Yoo will be on 2
Be
points
one
if he
of
wins
them.
this game. Are there any other players in the A group with good chances to catch?
Nikolas, let's see, how is Benjamin and Grigoriy has made 2 draws.
Yes,
And
solid.
Solid.
Yeah, I think they've been pretty uncontroversial as well. I think,
Okay. So we're picking up the game between Grigoriy and Benjamin Bach. First impressions are
Black's
knight-
got a problem.
yeah, this night. Like, what's it doing over here? Okay, so the desirable rook to d1 will allow the knight to get back into the game
Knight
just in time.
Okay.
Okay, let's just go down and have a look see.
And yeah, I'm not thrilled here,
Take
but
c3.
I do have a rook f1 check.
That is a good sighting. Always have to be careful about those,
Yeah,
it's
there's
checkmating
some
patterns.
problems.
Yeah. Those, you always have to be careful. But I assume this is nice for white. I mean, this is what we call the Bobby Fischer ending. The Bobby Fischer ending was rook and bishop versus rook and knight with pawns on both sides. That was
The bishop-
from his
The bishop is
time
good.
and off.
I wanted to
match.
be even
Please.
greedier, and I wanted to try a move rook f1 in the initial position. And
From the initial position, c7, c6, the knight is trapped. Why not play rook f1? And I have no choice. I have to take,
and I'll take back.
and I'll have to rescue my knight if I can.
So g6 seems like the only way.
Only way.
And
So
can
if we take,
can I even go g4 here?
yes. I was about to say that.
Okay, so I can take
Take
king
king
g7.
and I'm just in time to meet g3 with knight takes g6. Did you say you want to look at g4?
Yeah, just to see
Just to have
how
a
the
look-see.
tempi work out.
Okay.
So king f2.
Okay, so at any moment I could have played hg. No, I don't know if I could or could not have. Okay, so let's have a look.
I'll go king g3.
And I will play g5. So my knight is
Dead.
trapped.
So now I think the problem is I don't need my king to keep your knight stuck anymore. I can play bishop h1,
Right
and I'll bring my king to the left.
to the left. And then my knight is well and truly trapped. My question would be, no, I don't think I was trying to get my king to c4 as black. Okay, so we're going to bring our king to the left, aka queenside.
Yeah, and a big issue here is it's not a fair fight. You know,
When you're a piece down.
I can always not only just pass with my bishop, which is already a huge deal, but my bishop is going to take some pawns if you're not careful.
Exactly. So again, from the start, rook f1, takes, g6, g4
G4 was
If I
the try.
take king here,
So
takes, king g3, knight,
that's-
and then I'm good.
You're out.
I'm
so
out.
I do have to capture you back.
Okay, excuse me. Take on h5, take on h5, king, quickly to f6 so that
And you are going to get there in time.
liberation.
Not only that, but you might just play king g5 and take my pawn.
Be greedy if I get there. So we're looking at king f2, king f6. And you said be aggressive, and I said, well, I'm also happy with a queenside passer against your kingside passer. In other words, I'm thinking this king and pawn endgame might. And by the way,
We do
we
have
have a
resignation there in the game between
Yeah.
Christopher Yoo and Andrew Hong. So Christopher, with some good technique, manages to convert
Andrew,
that game.
blind spot.
Yeah,
just
that was-
just hung a knight. Very intriguing moment. c7, c6.
So maybe rook f1 isn't quite fast enough. I think it is close.
It is very, very close. I'm a little bit surprised that Benjamin played the move c6. Not that I'm a big fan of this position, but I'm just looking at these lines that we've been looking at, and I would much rather have had an active knight.
Yeah, just get the horsey in the
Get
game.
the horsey in the game. c7, c6, and we're mixing things up. Whether we should play rook d1 or rook f1, white's for choice. Let's move on and see what other games we have.
Yeah, so Oparin, pretty good chances, I think, in this endgame. Like, it
Exactly.
doesn't, at first glance, well, okay, at first glance, the knight looks really bad. But let's say even if the knight gets out and nothing special happens, like you said, Bobby Fischer just beat everybody for 5 years like that. So
we're going to switch over to the game with Awonder Liang, and this is right out of the Sicilian fan book. These Boleslavsky style structures. I think the classical guys were essentially wrong.
okay,
So if you read Bobby Fischer's book, My 60 Memorable Games,
yeah.
this is a lost position.
Well, the d5 square and
That's
the
it.
d6 pawn.
That's all you need to know. This was a lost position, and one of the reasons why these positions were considered lost was because of a victory by Vasily Smyslov over
Some punk.
American punk.
Well, no, Smyslov's the punk from the other
Yeah,
story.
not Arthur Dake. Oh boy, I'll think of his name in a moment. But the idea was that Vasily Smyslov won a game that was so smooth. It just wow! It was like this model game, and
Sicilian's over.
That's it. You can't have this weak d5 square. And then Bobby Fischer did exactly the same thing. Won a model game in my 60 memorable games, and if you read those annotations carefully, Bobby's dripping with sarcasm like over his opponent's moves. Now today's engines say, hey, those prejudices against the d5 square, no problem. The engines say black is perfectly okay. You'll contest the square, you'll play around the knight. And for those players who play this Sveshnikov, this is like no problem. Like, hey man,
This
that's
is
right.
This is a normal Thursday.
Yeah,
what we
right. This is just simple office hours.
Yeah,
So
I mean, of course, every rule in chess has a giant asterisk afterwards, and the asterisk always says it depends.
it depends.
So sometimes the d5 square,
Right.
you're playing Bobby Fischer and you just lose. And you're like, this is unplayable.
Right.
Sometimes, it's totally fine.
The stockfishes say, 0, 0, 0, 0, what's the problem? And I do remember this structure, and in fact, you could put the g6 pawn on the f6 square and look it up. It's a marvelous game. Vasily Ivanchuk white, Vishwanathan Anand black, and Vishy won beautifully with the black pieces. And you were like, what? I mean, even the pawns were doubled, so there was no knight. So Vishy got in an f5 and a d5, and then the extra f7 pawn became very, very helpful as well.
Yeah.
lots to play for. I'm going to say it's a 3-result game. Personally, again, I mean, I grew up with Bobby. Bobby, I was a fanboy. He was a hero to everybody. Yeah, I like white, but I recognize today that my predecessors were wrong, that this position is not, cut and dry, slice and dice, easy peasy, not at all.
A lot to play for.
A lot.
So that F5 move is the key break, right? So
yeah.
black is bringing the king to the center first to guard some squares.
Right.
But at some point, I think F5 is going to land.
On his agenda. I'm not a big fan of the rook on E6
Yeah,
at the moment.
I'm a bit confused.
I kind of like the rook to be on C6, quite frankly. Not on the E6 square, but
Yeah, I'm not sure why black's last 2 moves were played. Does King F8 to E8 really help us that much? I felt like there were other things we could do.
I think his big idea, Wonder's big idea, is his bishop. If I could put the king on C6, then D6 is not weak, and I'll futz around and I'll play for F7, F5, and my king will be safe on C6 as well. I think it's just how people approach these positions. I personally, if I had the black side of this, I would be aspiring to play F5 right away.
Yeah.
Like now's a good time.
And I 100% agree with the idea of bishop D8, but I'm just wondering why not right away? Do we okay, we can take back with the king and bring the king over, but bishop D8 here I think also makes a lot of sense.
Maybe. Okay, I mean, I don't see anything better than this.
Just
Maybe there's an issue. Is there a timing issue with rook to D1? No, I don't know. There's no knight takes E5, but should you play rook C8, then rook takes
of
knight
course.
E5. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of a king G7.
Okay.
And then F5. And
Okay. Let's go.
I was ready to send it.
Right. Package it and send it home. Yeah. This kind of a thing.
Here I wasn't so sure. King G6, F6.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
And C4.
That seems like a chess game.
Right.
I'm not so sure.
If you do take, I'll take with the knight. What I'm trying to say is it might be a timing thing and your rook gets trapped on the D file, because C4, C5 is definitely on my agenda. The desirable knight F6, for example, does run into D5.
Yes.
Pardon me, C5. What am I? Yuck.
Fair enough.
Right.
I think a lot of these problems exist, though, in the game line as well, which is now white has this knight on E3. And
let's just refresh the board.
Yeah, let's
He
say
did
I go
play
ahead and...
bishop D8, by the way.
Let's say I take it. I think
Yes.
it makes sense. Maybe bishop E4 is worth considering, but I like what's going on here.
Let me get to C6 as ASP, as fast as possible.
And if I simply do the same thing, rook E-D1.
Rook to E1 to D1. Yep. King.
And C4.
Yep. And king. So, I've landed.
And so you've stopped C5.
Which is important.
But I am wondering about some kind of C takes B and A4. I liked that knight C4 square. If I can get that to land again, I'd be happy.
A takes, and what would you like to do?
Maybe A4.
A4.
And I
How
think
about an intriguing move?
Things might be simplifying a bit too much, but...
Okay, so tempo here.
I think I'd like to bring it with the king rather than the pawn to defend.
Okay. And do I now finally unburden myself? Let's say I take. So at the end of the day, I have one weakness that I've managed to defend.
Yeah, I think it's just not enough.
Yeah,
I can give some checks, rook c1 or something, but
rook to c1 and more or less. I feel like you're
it's not a lot.
Yeah, the backward pawn on d6, and it's it's alive. The king is actually more or less useful in the center.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's. But again, it was close. It was close. Black definitely is defending rather than with the pawn on f5. I think again we have more something closer to 3 results. This just a second. Oops. Somehow whenever I try to hit a refresh, I don't always get what I want.
I don't think Black's doing badly at all, but
No.
I guess that is the point I'm trying to make. It feels like Black is just trying to steer it towards a draw, and I think with this other way, f5, that type of thing, maybe Black could pretend to try to win. Maybe,
well,
you know,
again,
maybe
more
not,
three,
but...
more of a 3-result game for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
we'll
takes,
keep an eye
takes
on
has
this
been
one.
played, and I'm sure Awonder will take
What has
back.
been played?
Bishop takes d8.
Yeah.
And you were playing rook takes. I think king takes also makes sense.
Yes.
With the same idea, king c7 to c6.
Right.
And we'll see something like that. Actually,
Exactly.
I like your rook takes better because in some of those lines it was nice to be able to bring the king back to d7 after a check. So.
Yeah, always these strategic moments where you've got this beautiful pivot square, and it
Yes.
seems like 3 pieces want to land and stay on that square. You know, the bishop would like to be on d5, the knight would like to be on d5, and the rook on d5. So sometimes the rook on d7 is a little bit in the way. I mean, that's where, you know, great thinkers like Victor Korchnoi would spend an hour. You know, like, should I have recaptured with a rook or should I have recaptured with a king?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, the perfect gets in the way of good. This is a good move. King takes d8 is a good move. Times, they're pretty even.
Yeah.
They're pretty even.
Okay. Who else do we have?
Exactly. That was my question. Let's take a look. Who else is in there? Grigoriy, Benjamin,
Only
we
our
see.
#1 seed up against Temur and Kuybokarov.
This looks like a Berlin.
Indeed, it does.
And one of the
Yeah,
still.
this is far from my specialty, but it seems like a reasonably good Berlin for white. I think this is
I was going to say, you know, an ideal model for black.
okay.
Uh,
I don't know much about the Berlin.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you as white have the better structure.
This is true.
Stop. You have the better structure. Black, on the other hand, needs to create a situation where the structure, the majority is blockaded.
Yes.
The knight on f5, bishop on e6 looks perfect. In other words, if this pawn were on f3, this bishop on g5, the move g4 would come with some kinds of fright.
Yeah, of course.
With the pawn on f4, the blockade is almost
Unbreakable.
unbreakable. It's just so good. There was a marvelous game between Levon Aronian and Gothikamsky. And Levon Aronian, as black, got such an ideal position as we're seeing, and he got to put his bishop on this long diagonal.
That might be what King C8's about.
Very, very bad things, evil intentions happened to Gata, and it was really one of the most beautiful games in a Berlin I've ever seen. Not that white is bad or anything like that. It's just that I see the blockade as being very, very good. For the moment, white also has a blockade, right? C6 is inviting knight here.
Yeah, one of the reasons I thought white might be doing well is
please.
I'm looking at this knight on e4, and there are moves like knight g5, moves like knight f6 that might give you a slight pause.
Right.
So after knight g5, is your intention to capture?
Yes.
Yeah. And then I thought I could take with the h pawn,
Okay.
and I was going to try to manufacture a g4 move.
Ratsarak.
Yeah.
Here,
Now that it's on the board, hard to say how to make progress.
right.
but-
probably my desire is to create again, and I'll refer to this as the initiative. Whenever I have bishops of opposite color, I'm looking desperately not to be the defender, but to be the aggressor. I want the initiative. So in this particular case, what I want to try to do is maneuver the knight to a5 so that I can harass the structure. Now, you'll probably play bishop c3.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you play bishop c3 and I play bishop to d7. So again, my ultimate goal is to take the initiative, to be aggressive. And like you say, even if you were to manufacture g4 on a good day,
Yeah.
you didn't scare me. You didn't accomplish that much.
I'm thinking maybe this move knight f6 is a better idea then.
Okay.
The point being, now if you still take my knight, at the very least I have this bishop e5 idea.
Right. And then
giving
your
myself
bishop is
another-
kind of like
another square.
maybe better placed. There was a marvelous game from the World Championship match. I believe it was in Chennai between Vichy and Magnus. And very similar game was played, and Black's initiative on the queen side actually brought him success.
Sure.
In this position, I'm not sure that I see a problem with the bishops of opposite color position. So for example, takes c6,
Just
knight to
removing
d6,
the knight.
knight takes d6, rook takes d6. The possibility of Black losing, I think, is pretty low.
Yeah, I would
Whereas
agree here.
the possibility of bad things happening might be, again, this bishops of
Yeah, b5 and
d5. Like if I force you to play rook d2,
right.
then it is Black who's enjoying. Very intriguing position. Ray Robson playing, and Ray, by the way, as the #1 seed, hasn't played a great tournament. He really was Houdini.
He's saved all the half points so far.
So
but
far.
it's been rough.
He's not been. Oh, sorry. That's our analysis. Apologies.
Yeah,
We're just
so-
going to king c8.
Kuybokarov is taking some time here.
Right. And then here's the question. If you're not playing for g4, what are you playing for?
Yeah, like the knight d5 move came to mind, but I think you will play c6 at some point. Like if I go knight e to c3, I think
Knight
again
to
it's
e to c3.
maybe c6.
The c6 could kind of rock your boat. The
Maybe
problem,
bishop d7 again. Yeah.
the problem may be with the desirable knight to c3.
That one was knight d4, I thought.
was knight to d4. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Never mind.
Well, you are thinking about knight to d5
course.
and sacrificing a pawn for, well, we're not sure.
Yeah.
But Ray Robson, by the way, is actually playing a game, shockingly enough, where he's not giving a 5-1 time advantage to his opponent.
Now he's not up on time,
No.
but it feels like he is.
Yeah, well, it sure does. For a Ray position, I mean, Ray's usually, he's down to 3 minutes and his opponent has 15. That's what I meant by the 5-3.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have another special guest getting ready.
That we do.
To mic
So
up.
the person who took out our Group A leader,
Absolutely.
Christopher Yoo, will be joining us in the studio.
Is
So
in the building.
we'll get him hooked up here.
Okay, let's do it as we bring up a very important game for the tournament standings, Christopher versus Andrew. And, well, hi, Christopher. Welcome, 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 welcome. There's nothing like a good Najdorf to make me feel alive. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Oh,
nice to have you.
Nice to meet you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Today you're playing the tournament leader. game.
He started very well with 2 out of 2.
Absolutely. And G4, take us away. Tell us what happened today. G4?
G4, yeah.
This is all theory. Or is it?
If this, I actually was out of theory. I hadn't, but I had thought G5 was very natural. I have to keep the initiative. Okay, takes, knight H5.
Okay.
Very logical.
Right?
Rook G1, G6, and now I think Queen E3. Maybe it's good to trade queens. Also, it's kind of a waiting move. If castles, maybe Bishop E2.
Right?
If
Castles, Bishop E2 is
I'm
a
not
nice
really,
tempo.
I wasn't really sure what the how to evaluate this position.
Right?
But I thought that it was quite complicated. Definitely not draws. So I was
Definitely not draws.
Yes, definitely not draws today.
Right?
My last few games have been very draws, not very interesting. But
Right?
today I had a very complicated game. But what I got lucky because after Queen B6, he blundered his knight.
That was what we were asking. Like, did he just forget about the knight?
I think he just forgot about the knight.
Wow. But your evaluation of this ending, because for me, I always thought I played the knight, or, well, actually, to be frank, I played just everything in my life. Found dissatisfaction with everything too. But I played the knight orf, and I always thought that the queen trade helped black.
I had a concrete variation. I saw this. Bishop A5, maybe?
Bishop A5? Yeah.
Yes. And if knight C6, bishop takes A6.
Okay.
If rook A8, bishop B7.
Rook A8, bishop B7. And
Yes,
you
rook
had-
A5, bishop C6.
Wow. Great stuff.
Yes, rook A6.
Yeah.
Oh no, not rook A6, then bishop D7, knight C5.
Gotcha. The rook has to go to A7.
Rook A7, knight B5. Wait, maybe not knight B5, bishop C6, knight A7, bishop B4.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
The position is interesting.
Yeah.
But definitely still, I still like to play. I still thought it was, I had good chances.
Like a white three result game, but
Three
you
result
like
game,
but
yeah.
you liked your chances. Knight F4 once again. Bishop A5. If you don't mind playing me, letting me play devil's advocate for just a moment. Rook B8 defending the knight. So I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. Rook H2, of course.
No, rook B8, bishop C7.
Bishop C7.
Rook C8. Bishop A5, rook B8 repetition. Or I can play bishop takes D6. Maybe I should try.
Okay.
Maybe I should.
I was going to play rook to B7, bishop takes D6, bishop takes D6, rook takes D6, rook takes H2. You know, there's so many games these days where the people play the most sharpest lines. They get to a position that's drawn at the end of, like all of their great stuff. Here you've got rooks and knight C5, though. That's got to be a nice tempo. So yeah, it's not that simple, but okay, what he did, however, blundering the knight was not good. And when you took the knight, what was his reaction?
He didn't have many too much reaction. He kept the poker face pretty well.
Okay.
He knew that he had blundered badly. He said after the game it was a just a hallucination, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just a forgetfulness.
Just to forget.
Oops.
I have wondered like that in the past, so
Of
I know how
course.
it feels. I guess.
I think
Yeah,
we've
yes,
all, not just once, but twice and thrice. After you've won the piece, okay, you know you're winning, but at the same time, you want to keep the control.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a very good move. Rook G2, keeping the control. Bishop C7, rook takes B3, and now you gave back the piece because you're getting all these pawns.
Yeah.
And
I know you like pawns.
yeah.
Yes, there's
And-
definitely a lot of. I have a lot of pawns. So
Exactly.
It's a very tough. It's just like it's a game over almost, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I trade the rooks.
Right.
avoid the counterplay. Yeah.
And you even get to
Yeah.
trade off a
Yeah.
weakness on the king side.
Now I
So-
just needed to calculate a few things, but there's a don't blunder like the bishop.
We were doing the same thing ourselves. We were
Okay, I
trying to
see.
avoid blundering anything, and
Don't yeah. Here just okay. Rook c1. Avoid the counterplay.
it was such a nice move because I was trying to do something bad. I think I was trying to play bishop e2 check, followed by bishop to d3, and but what you did was very convincing, Christopher. You just played this, and yeah, everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and we hope we'll see you, more of you during the tournament.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Christopher as he takes down Andrew, who was tournament leader, 2-zip, and now Christopher has the same score as Andrew, right back in the thick of things as the tournament results are. We're getting down to the last few games here, Caleb. And by the way, I've just seen the move by Temur, rook d2, a clear indication to my mind that White's kind of reached the Zook point. He's got his pieces to the maximum, and he doesn't know what else to do. He played the move rook d1, and I'm not saying that Ray is going to do this and voluntarily drop his rook back, but it's already an indication that the advantage is not on the white side of the table. Rook d1 on the board.
I would agree. Maybe we should
Please.
do a final lap around, see where
Absolutely.
things stand. So this Ray Robson game, I think I would even say 90-95% it's going to be a draw.
I will say that Ray has the better chances at the moment of winning than losing. So in other words, I'm going to say he's got his expected return is 6 out of 10.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I think we would get to the same number if it was 90% draw and 10% Ray wins.
There you go.
Think so.
Awonder Liang is, well, we did see the move c4, and we've got this knight kaplunked on the d5 square. Like I said, I don't think there's any problem whatsoever if the rook is anywhere but e6.
Yes.
E6 is just not the right square.
To my eyes,
Yes.
after knight d5, is
forced?
what if we take it?
Yeah.
Just take the knight.
Exactly.
And then, okay, you can take me back, and I'm not sure d6 is going to be such a huge problem that I'll lose this game.
No, the only thing I could conceive of being an issue, let's put it that way. C takes, rook tempo, doesn't matter.
e7 is the square.
You're going backwards, I get it.
And
Rook to a3.
for the moment, I'll play
Let's
along
say
rook a7.
Exactly, be compliant. Always be compliant. Rook c1 and rook c6.
Well, I think already I can just play rook c7. And
It's not already. Be careful. Be careful.
Okay.
Early warning. Danger, danger.
so king d7.
And
And my big idea is I'm going to give you my a pawn because I think you have some trouble defending e4. I'll go rook c7 again,
did you say give me a pawn?
and I'll go rook c4.
My favorite living condition. I'm a pawn up. Yay!
And I'll check you.
Trust me, you are not having a fun time.
And I'll go back to c4.
Not at all having a fun time. Okay. Here I have to analyze check
Yeah, maybe you can
as well as
work-
king g5.
maybe you can work your way to d3 as well, actually.
Oh,
Or yeah,
I was
this is one
thinking
option,
of
but-
worming my way here with a check or without a check. I'm not sure. And you were saying I should be coming back, doing some kind of
yeah.
fancy footwork kind of magic.
King g5 looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So
But I'm just
okay.
saying that it's
There's some
not-
issues still. Yeah.
Yeah, if I were in your shoes, I would probably want to include a5.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I think Awonder in this particular case is still the one trying to equalize.
Yeah.
He's not there yet. And he may well be there shortly, but not quite there yet. Rook a, knight d5. Is that on the board, by the way?
Something is.
Yes, we do have this.
This position.
Am expecting rook a3, as we just were talking about. Rook a7 looks okay. Rook c1, and again, the great big dream. Land a rook on c6, keep pressure, try to tie up your opponent, win the game.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
The one I'm really interested in is
Please.
this Oparin Benjamin Bach game. We saw that knight stuck on h4. Did Bach find a way to get it back? He did, but it came with a price.
A big price. That pawn is on g6. I gasped for air.
So it was rook f1. Okay.
Okay, so it was rook f1. Takes.
So we were looking at this.
G6.
We saw that g4 wasn't quite good enough. King f2 was the choice. And we thought that g8 should be played after king f2. Or no, that's not what we thought. Yeah, we thought there'd be knight f5 here, I guess.
Knight f5, which was played.
Mm-hmm.
King. And now black played king f6.
But that does lose the pawn. But maybe no choice.
A knight e7, is that so convincing? Maybe he was afraid of
King
this.
e5?
Well, do we take twice on g6 first and then go king e5? Because that e-pawn could get escorted, right? Maybe this is a kind of a transposition.
Yeah, I guess there's...
Because this is scary. The king on d6 means that I don't get to use my majority. And by the way, Benjamin's down to 7 seconds, so let me just refresh the board and kind of catch up with the players. King f4, king f6 takes, knight g7, an indication that things have gone wrong.
Definitely.
Bishop c2, check. You can take the pawn and allow king e5.
I think king e5 is game over with the minors on or without.
So Ben said he had to go back.
And White's trying to push forward.
And doing a fairly good job.
Okay, takes was played, giving up
so
c6.
G7 is on the agenda, right?
G7 has to be knight f6.
True. Otherwise, it's a girl.
And we can take.
Takes. And this
I
should
guess
be
it's,
lost.
well,
I mean,
okay, king e6.
King e6. Okay, sorry, that was.
Oh, there's bishop e8. Is that clever?
Sure, just to stop king f7.
And now, how do you stop king c4 to b5?
I don't. That's
Okay.
why I'm thinking it's winning actually for Grigoriy. Knight at g7, knight f6. We do expect bishop takes, c6, and the move we were looking at was king e6, bishop e8.
Yeah, I guess black will go knight g8 there.
Let's try it. King e6, bishop e6, knight to g8. So at least in this case, we have a goal.
Yeah.
But we also know it comes with a price, right? Thunk. Thump.
It's a pretty big price.
Yeah. Now, not to say that this
Yeah, bishop c6 or bishop h5, I think, are both winning.
Yes. Benjamin looks like, for Benjamin, he started with a loss, right? And
Yeah,
he
started
drew.
with a loss. I think he had a pretty rough outing at the Spring Chess Classic as well. So bad luck at the Classics this year so far.
Because he's been doing extremely well in the Rapids,
Of
and the
course,
Blitz
yeah.
tournaments that are being featured at the St. Louis Chess Club. And this one is not gone his way whatsoever. I saw that pawn on g7. I was like, "Urgh."
Doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good at all.
That means we could have a few leaders after round 3 here in the
Because
A group.
Andrew lost, that would mean Christopher.
Christopher and Andrew definitely tied for the lead, and with a win, Oparin will join.
Exactly.
Nico is on 1.5, so not
Because
quite there.
Yeah, because he did not win the game against Ray Robson. And let's again just take a look. We're going to call this game for Grigoriy.
Yeah, I think
it looks
it's
pretty clear.
dead. So Ante is pushing a little bit against Awonder.
Yes.
And that A pawn did die.
And he did play as we expected.
Rook B1 is maybe clever instead of C1.
I think it more or less similar transposes. Okay, F5. I like this by Awonder. I think he just says, okay, when I'm a pawn down, let me trade some more pawns off the board. I don't want to see King G5 land on my doorstep and, you know, maybe the king gets to F6, but let me undermine D5.
Yeah. And I think with that, we have some news in the B group.
Okay,
I think
jump over to
we
the
have
B
another
group.
result there. So, of course, Kuybokarov maybe on the worst side against Ray Robson as well in the A group. And those are our 3 games remaining there.
Okay.
However, in the B group, Begum completes her comeback. So started off with a loss, had a very, very tough game in round 2, but managed to draw. And now in round 3 against Brewington Hardaway, she has won the game.
I like the queen on A1.
The queen on A1, definitely the star in this one.
Okay, so just a second.
So we
it's a rook ending.
saw a rook ending.
And Begum is, wow. So normally speaking, you would think this is a draw, but that pawn on G5 makes all the difference in the world. Oh, oops, what?
Well, what do you do? What can you do?
I don't think you can do this.
Well, you can't do this, but
okay.
A8 was coming next.
Begum wins. Alice Lee, how is she doing?
So, of course, that leaves us with 2 games remaining. All 3 games in the B group decisive so far. Andy Woodward and Josiah, who we had on the show, winning their games, and now Begum makes 3.
Exactly. Now, what I just saw was Irina looked like she was in a lost rook and pawn ending. Where is she?
Against Raja.
Raja.
Yeah,
now,
Irina
this was
a
a game that started simply terribly for Raja, and Irina was just I flat out of the opening a pawn up and was winning the game.
Yeah,
and
maybe
now
we can
she got
rewind to where we last left it, because we last left it, we thought Irina had, you know, done a great job of, well, after doing a bad job of having the winning position, she was defending well and got to this slightly worse endgame.
Exactly.
But I thought, you know, I would have ranked her chances not so badly.
Right. Bishop takes D4. An intriguing question there, but okay, because bishop, bishop takes, and gosh, this sure feels drawn, doesn't it?
It does to me. Even the king and pawn game. Why would we lose there?
I'm not sure why we would lose that.
Because we can go from
King
E5 to F5, right? To keep you out.
Yeah, to keep, just let's go. Takes, king and king E5, and as you say, oscillate back and forth between E5 and F5.
The only 2 squares that matter are E4 and F4, and I can guard both of those.
And you're definitely not coming via the queen side. Well, that should just be a draw. Irina, was she thinking that she's the one having chances? Maybe.
Rook D2 is a strange choice, but I guess it was required to get the king to E4.
Okay, I'm a little bit
Yeah,
I'm a little bit confused.
Raja just wanted to play king E4 and didn't want to allow rook E6.
Right.
It's that simple. And if black goes rook E6, then I think white goes rook C2.
Okay. Sure. That makes sense. Sorry, I'm just having I would love to get a past H pawn, and I'm looking primarily at G5, HG5, King G6, and trying to get the guys going.
Yeah. Maybe Rook C5 to that effect is something to think about too. Because here I'd be a little worried about King F4.
King F4, Rook C5.
Ah.
Same
order.
idea.
Yeah.
I am winning the pawn.
Rook E2. Oh, you have Rook F5 check, but
Okay. Rook
King E4.
Yeah, this is so what I would.
And
it looks
Oparin
like
has won his game against Benjamin Bach as expected.
Yeah, this is what I was dreaming in terms of getting counterplay. But why would I not take that king and pawn endgame? Irina made life very difficult for herself.
And now she's just down the pawn, right?
And now she gets to G5, but like at the cost of, well,
at the cost of the
blundering
game.
a pawn.
And
Okay,
more
now.
pawns. Yeah, this is just lost.
Yeah,
It's just.
nothing to discuss. Too many pawns.
I don't think we missed something in that king and pawn endgame. That's a very strange decision to.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking decision by Irina to allow this. And now this is terrible because this pawn is actually useless. The white king is beautifully sheltered, and white will use his d pawn as a decoy to get the game position. And this is pretty simple stuff. This is you're building a bridge, and away you go. Ooh. For Irina, I know this will be very disappointing because her victory yesterday, I kind of enthused her with a bubbly enthusiasm, and this will be definitely a big setback.
So Andy Woodward is still the man to catch, though.
Right.
Raja would still be a half point back with this one because Andy is already +2 after his win today.
Exactly.
And that leaves us with just one more game in the B group between Alice Lee and Steven Zierk. Maybe we can check on that. Well, I think we're going to have another special guest in the studio in just a moment with the game.
Okay, Alice Lee White against Steven. First thought is she's enjoying the advantage. Is Alice Lee? I like White's position. It's not that easy to win, but Alice for choice as we invite Begum into our studio and getting her mic'd up as she has completed a comeback of sorts. Started poorly in the tournament, but round 3 will be a round that she would like to remember. Begum, welcome to our show. Long time no see. Not mic'd up yet. I think you're the first and only one to figure out how to break the mic. Well done. I mean, you did. You just completely come in and you destroyed it. I mean,
it was broken. So it just fell down.
You can.
I can just talk, right?
Yeah, you can hold it. You can hold. Yeah. Welcome to our show.
Thank
Begum.
you. Hi, Yasser.
Hi. How's it going? Well,
Great.
it's going well, right?
Yes.
What happened?
Today I don't know what happened, honestly. I just played a cat. It's just like safe, but he played c6. It's a little bit passive, and then
B6?
yeah, I knew something, but not as much. After takes e4, the position is alright. If black knows, probably it just ends.
How to play, yeah? But it
Yeah.
requires
Some knowledge, definitely.
vigilance. Here,
Rook a7 is a right move.
right?
So I need to be fast to get rid of this isolated pawn.
Right, because if black could manage rook d7, then
Yes.
this is fine. So
Yesterday I learned my lesson.
very good, very good. D5,
Yeah.
as you were just about to explain, get rid of this isolated pawn, and maybe your pieces are just simply more active. better.
Yeah, rook d7 probably is better for him. Rook d7,
Then
and then I move the queen, and it's a game.
right.
So, but bishop c4 is an interesting move.
I suppose he was afraid of queen b3.
Probably, yeah. And then he was afraid that my pieces are more active than his.
Exactly. So bishop c4 takes, bishop takes, but now you get into an ending where, well,
It's very unpleasant. I feel like he missed. He thought he just has bishop d4 here. Bishop d4, bishop d4, rook d4, knight b5. I had a feeling he just missed it. He thought it's gonna be an equal position because if I play bishop d4, rook a d1, then rook d7.
Right.
So
And then he is, as you said, just equalized. But then the move
Yeah.
knight b5, terrifying.
yeah,
You fork
rook
the
is
rooks.
on a7 is like misplaced,
Right. Okay.
There should be something.
So he decided that his best option was to get into two bishops. So here you're better, but you're not.
I'm not winning or
No,
anything. Definitely.
yeah. You're not absolutely
Yeah.
secure in your victory. You're just enjoying a better moment.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So here rook b6. I think the.
Ooh.
Thank you. Yasser.
Ooh, you're a tactician. Nice. Sorry, please.
I have a feeling he went to this position thinking rook b6. He's just gonna attack with the knight on c3 actually.
Okay.
Uh,
And then
he thought the position is equal. Yeah, immediately rook d4 doesn't work because of rook b8, so knight
Right.
c3, and then here I can play rook b e6.
rook b e6. Ooh,
Yeah.
threatening mate.
Rook d4, it's checkmate, so they need to take in bishop b6. It's a very unpleasant endgame. To
Absolutely, because
Right.
you're going to end up winning this pawn. You'll have rook and bishop versus rook and knight.
And then up
Yeah.
a pawn, probably, you know.
You're enjoying.
I'm pushing it.
You're enjoying. But in the game,
So yeah, that's why he went to this position. It is of course holdable in my opinion, but I just think it's extremely tough. And h4, in case if I go to the rook endgame, he doesn't have time to play h5. That was my idea.
exactly.
So, and then this endgame is very tricky, I feel like.
Now, in principle, this is supposed to be drawn.
Yeah.
But,
But-
of course, you're
I
going to
mean-
play.
I mean, if black puts h5, like if they're on time for h5, it's an easy draw.
Easy draw.
So either I have to play h5 or g4.
Right?
So we had a camp recently, women's camp. We
Yes,
were
you did.
analyzing this position, but the pawn was on h2.
Right?
So g4 is the only way to put some pressure. But
Okay.
maybe here h5 was even better. So after this position, black has to know, like king g7 he played, which is fine. Here. And then I think black's best defense is to play h5. So keep the
H5.
h4
Pawn.
pawn. I think that's the case. If we exchange the pawns, it's already lost for black, I feel like.
Because the
If
pawn
I'm not
on
mistaken.
g5 is
Yeah.
such a nice
Because I
pawn.
can give away the f4 pawn.
Right. And then run your
Yeah,
king.
and then they're not on time.
Right.
So I'm not sure, but I think h5 is the best try. But
You would probably play f3, run your
Yeah.
pawn to a6.
then try to get the king out, right?
Right. So we'll put some position like this on the board, and I will just wait. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly
Maybe
how.
with the king g8.
Okay, fine. You're right. And this
So-
is what you mean. At least in these cases,
Yeah,
so he probably will have to play f4.
yeah.
And then
And
let's
rook
say
a3.
just wait, yeah? So we get here, and eventually you're just going to keep walking, right?
Yeah, keep walking, but
Or do you want to play rook a8?
I think rook a8 is better than keep
Okay.
walking, right?
Right, so rook a8 king.
No, actually, rook should be on a7. Rook f4, I should be able to play rook c7. Rook a4, then a7.
Okay.
But the problem is that you can play, if king d3, for example, here, you can take on f4, rook c7, and then take on h4,
Prior to having to go back.
a7.
Yes.
I think this is going to be a draw
And this
because
is
of the
why.
h1.
This is why you thought his decision to play h takes g5
Yeah,
is
it's
likely
wrong.
losing.
Yes.
The h4 pawn is actually a target. Very instructive rook ending for those of in our audience who are watching. This decision by black to play hg5
I think it's the final mistake, and after that, I don't see how he's holding the
Right.
position. I just walk with the king, get the
Exactly.
rook out, and then walk again. It's just winning.
Technical. Begum, where did you learn to play rook endings? Nicely
Somehow
done.
I woke up
woke,
knowing something.
woke up this morning. Very, very impressive game. And it was a difficult start. It was a
Yes.
difficult start. But you also saved a huge game against Akshat.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Well,
good.
I'm not 100% right now. I had some health issues. I was on
Okay.
antibiotics. First game, I was like sleeping totally. So
Right.
starting
Big comeback.
becoming back. Hopefully, it's a tough
Lovely.
tournament. Definitely, I am the last rated player,
Right.
but it's amazing to play this tournament. I
Okay.
feel like
Exactly.
I'm gonna get so much experience
And training,
playing.
good.
Yeah, definitely for the Olympiad.
Begum, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on the
you,
show. It's
Yasser.
lovely, lovely to have you. And
It's
don't
good
be
to
a
see you.
stranger.
Okay,
Come back many times.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was Begum, a very instructive rook and pawn endgame that she just played. Then this decision by black to play h6 takes g5. Very, very consequential, Caleb, as she won an impressive game. We've had 4 out of the 5 games in the B group, decisive. Nobody can draw. Alice Lee is trying to make it 5 for 5. But it's not that convincing. Maybe it's actually closer to being a draw than anything.
Yeah, and I just came back to the
In
studio
time.
with a brand new mic clip.
Right.
I think that one was actually my fault. Apologies to Big Game.
No, on the contrary, I think she busted it, and purposely so. She broke it.
But now that I'm here, I think I'm gonna have to leave again because we have another guest in the studio.
Fantastic.
So here is
Absolutely.
Grigoriy Oparin, fresh off of his nice win against Benjamin Bach in a
Exactly.
complicated endgame. So we'll get him in the studio.
All right, let's do it as I bring up his game. That was this ending of the bishop versus the knight, and it all went swimmingly well for white, as we'll get Grigoriy all mic'd up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, and tell us, how was it today?
Yeah, I mean, I went for the Italian openings. I probably spent like 3 hours today in the morning repeating,
Really?
repeating all the different lines.
But I think that's the problem with the Italian. They're
Yeah.
so, I mean, how do you not confuse yourself? The variations. Here, they play a5. There, they play a6.
It's not easy.
Not easy. Sometimes they play bishop a7. Sometimes they play bishop e7.
But I think today I was not the first one to confuse the lines.
Yeah, exactly. So you got something out of the opening. Tell me when the
So this is all
preparation.
theory. Yeah.
Yes.
Bishop a4, knight
This is
h5, knight f1, knight hf4, bishop c2.
This
Yeah,
is all
and
known.
this, well, it takes d4 was
A
a
surprise.
surprise to me. And as you can see by his time management, he spent over 40 minutes.
On this decision.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was actually sitting at the board and I was extremely confused because I think like I had this position like 2 weeks ago in one of the Champions Chess Tour events on
Right.
Chess.com against Seirawan.
Right. And,
And,
you and your opponent would know that?
And I assumed that Benjamin would
Be prepared for
would
this.
see that game.
Yes.
So basically black has 2 main moves, c6 and queen d7. And after both of them I had some small ideas, but
Okay, c6 and
Yeah.
queen d7 were your expected moves. He has chosen to capture.
which is probably not ideal because releasing the pressure in the center, like it makes my life easier.
Right.
Just like I understand what's happening now.
Right. So e5. Oh,
Yeah,
pardon me. He played. Pardon me.
D5.
He played d5, and you did not play e5. You wait.
Yeah, e5, f6, black gets the counterplay.
Okay.
So I thought that, like, overall, I thought like I should be happy if he takes on e4 and I take back with the rook.
Okay.
And h4 seems like a very useful move because I prepare knight g5, and I also prepare g3, which is also very important.
And you're just getting your pawn away from
Yeah.
the h3 square. Okay, so h4,
So-
dual dual ideas, knight g5 and g3 on your agenda.
So yeah, he took on a4. If bishop g4 instead of d takes e4, I just go knight 1 h2. I think it all works out for me.
That's a nice tempo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll kick his piece back like with g3 or something like that.
Yeah, go away. H takes e4, rook takes e4. Just a second, I'm going to refresh and bring back No, I'm not going to refresh. How about that? Apologies for this. I have to refresh the board as a whole. Somehow I like the colors when you have a live position versus an analysis position.
Yeah.
Takes e4, rook takes e4, and at this position, just at this moment, you felt good. You
I
feel
felt
like
very good.
you have something out of the opening.
Because Puek's position is very stable, in particular with the knights. Yeah, because the knight on a4 is hanging. Also have h5 ideas at some point. The knight is coming to g5.
Exactly. Takes h5. So one way to say it is your initiative is brewing.
Yeah.
You've got some
So queen
ideas.
d6 is probably the only move. Yeah, knight
Okay.
g5, h6. He had some crazy bishop d4, bishop takes d4 instead of h6, but
He had what? Knight e2.
yes.
Sorry. Bishop takes d4. Don't tell me you blundered upon.
No, I saw the move, but I also saw that I have so many replies to it. Like h5 is a move, queen f3 is a move, g3 is a move. h5, I thought the line continues like h5, bishop takes f2,
Wow. Okay.
king takes f2,
Yep.
queen c5, double attack. Bishop e3, queen takes g5, queen f3, I thought.
Then this is why you might want to play queen f3 a little bit earlier as well, just to...
Yeah, also
Yeah.
g3 there. Yeah, I mean, the lines are so confusing.
Very, very nice. Bishop takes d4, but that looks like super dangerous. I mean, just...
It's such a committal move. I mean,
It
if it doesn't work, I mean,
Right.
Black just loses the game.
And you shouldn't get seduced by checkmate. You don't have these beautiful bishop h7 ideas.
The thing is, bishop d4 doesn't really solve Black's problems. Like the
No.
knights are still hanging. So.
Exactly. Okay, and I'm sure Black would be getting punished. h6. Knight takes e6.
I have to say, f takes e6 came like as a small surprise.
Because you were expecting knight takes e6,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, I'm better here, but the question is like how much.
Right.
And f takes e6. I mean,
That really creates a
like
weakness. Yeah.
Benjamin decided to try to solve his problems in a very concrete manner, but
h5.
and
Right.
maybe it works. Yeah, instead of bishop takes f4, I was also considering some insane queen g4.
Not so insane, because
I mean, g2 is hanging.
yes, but
Is
then
that-
the knights will be stuck, right? Well, they're stuck on
Yeah.
g6 and f4, but then they're going to be stuck. Also, how will he take on g2 with the
I wasn't
h9?
100% sure, but probably knight 8 takes g2. So my
okay.
idea was knight e3.
Right.
So if black takes on e3, then I take back. Then, I mean, knight has to go back to d5. e6 is falling. This is not good.
No.
So
h6 is falling.
after
yeah, so
knight
like-
e3, black shouldn't take. Black should go knight e1 probably.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have no clue what's happening here. Like bishop b3 maybe.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, the knight can come back to d3, something like that. I
Knight
don't know.
c4.
D4 is-
Knight c4 is... sorry, and just in this moment, Grigoriy, is
Knight c4 is what queen c6.
queen c6 and so many pieces are hanging, but it
Everything is
looks
hanging.
okay. Remarkable. None of this happened because
Yeah, I decided to go for a safer solution.
Bishop
Because
day.
I calculated this line and I thought I'm better. I thought-
Sure.
Yeah, because the knight on h4 is stuck forever.
And that was our feeling as well, that Caleb and I just had
No,
this
he shouldn't
feeling
take
like
on e3. Certainly, like he should probably take on e4.
he should have captured on e4. Yes.
Probably, I think so.
Yes.
And then, I mean, either take on b2 or go c6, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, I thought that maybe I shouldn't go rook b1 actually. Because rook b1, bishop d4, rook b7, bishop b6.
Ah,
Black might survive there.
you're saying that your rook could end up actually being a little bit
Yeah,
trapped.
I mean, I didn't see a way to proceed.
Okay.
So I thought rook d1, just rook d7 next. Again,
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Rook to d1, c6,
rook d7.
rook d7. Can I play rook f7?
Oh, I take and play g3.
And it's still
Yeah.
trapped, always, and rook to d7. Wow.
So it is very important, like pretty much everywhere. So.
Yeah.
But this I just thought that just lose by force.
And this was because we were a little bit confused. What were we thinking? We were thinking knight e7?
Well, knight e7 is a move, but
But
I
still
go G7,
G7
yeah.
and king e5 in every case, yes? So did you feel at this point that you had a winning position?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, well, there you go.
Goes back. I mean, it's not like super easy to break through, but I thought just eventually like
You should
I
do it.
create some weaknesses on the queen side for black and it will be over.
Right. We picked up when I saw this pawn on g7, I went,
So yeah, I thought like instead of knight e8, maybe h5 is
best chance?
a better chance, but then I just simply take on h5, knight h5, bishop d7, king d6, bishop g4, knight g7, knight king d4, and I
Yeah.
provoke c5,
Yeah,
and then the
And-
king goes back to b5. So
exactly. Looks like a very, very nice technical win there. In the game, it all went very smoothly.
yeah,
Bishop e8 was
I
like
don't
a-
have to do that, but I
but
thought
that's a nice touch, though.
I thought I've been like half a tempo. So
Right, very, very nice. How's the tournament for you, Grigoriy? You feeling good?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I mean, I came from Chicago where it played open.
Yes.
That didn't go so well, but hopefully this one
It'll
will turn
go
out better. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
We hope that you'll return and show us more games.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grigoriy. And there you have it. Very, very nice endgame technique as Grigoriy takes down Benjamin. And I personally love the move Bishop e8, Caleb. I think that was one of the final touches. As he was saying, it's a half a point, a half a tempo. Felt like more as you're looking at Ray Robson. And he was in the driver's seat when we left it. And it sure feels like he's putting on a clinic here. We left it at a moment that the bishop, we saw the move rook to d1. And we said, well, if that's the best that white has, Caleb, I'm not a fan.
Not so good.
And we do see these trades as we're getting, ooh, this is a dream position for black.
Yeah, so white managed to get the rooks off the board, which probably is a good thing, I guess, because our rook wasn't going anywhere on the d file. But it came at a pretty big cost, which was this knight on d4.
And the
Felt
bishop,
like this is something we really should never allow, and
yeah,
now
bishop is coming to c2. And again, that's a perfect blockade on the king side. The one trump that white has on his side of the table is his majority.
well,
and
the question here must be knight d5, right? I want to try to evict this knight or knight e2. Same idea. We have to get rid of the knight.
And Ray said, by all means, you evicted, but guess what? This knight is tethered to this pawn, and I've got a clear idea of just running right up the board. By the way,
this
we have
idea.
some standings ready for
Yeah, so there are just a
we
few
stand?
games left in the mix here. We
Okay.
can check out the standings in the A group. We have 3 co-leaders, and with the 1 game left, you were just highlighting a very nice plan for Ray to try and make it 4 leaders.
Exactly. Christopher Yoo taking down Andrew,
Yes.
who has started 2-0. Yeah.
So that is the key update to the A group. That win blows the spot for the leaders wide open.
Again, let's
And-
pick up the game of Ray Robson. And by
Yeah.
the way, standings for the B group.
Yeah,
I
we
know
can
we have 4 decisive results. so
check out the
far.
B group. 4 decisive results so far. Actually, this makes it 5 with the
Well,
latest
Alice Lee,
updates.
did she lose?
Maybe we should check.
Wow. Well,
Just to
we'll
see what
stay with the
happens.
Ray Robson game for a moment.
Yeah.
But I thought Alice was enjoying the ending. Big surprise. First of all, Ray Robson. It looks to me like he's got this game essentially clinched. Because
I thought that was the live position, but so much more has happened.
so much more has happened. So that was why I wanted to catch up. And just to refresh, Alice is still playing. So yeah, that wasn't a loss.
Yeah,
for
it's
Alice.
Black got the B pawn, and
Oof, but
it
this
seems
is-
like a clear lane to B1 to me.
Ooh, this is so nasty. This king on E4.
The king, the bishops,
We-
the pawn, and
we-
now
we
just
forg-
the bishops. But
Yeah, we forget how incredibly powerful a king can be.
yeah.
And in these kinds of positions, don't be surprised if you just get yourself checkmated. No, and I'm being very serious. Like in this position, imagine I play king E2.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm really, fulfilling a mission here. Check.
And that is a handshake. Ray has officially won the game.
Exactly. He has indeed. And this is where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Is like I'm going to play, again, just putting some moves on the board.
That's a nice one.
You forget how strong a king can be.
Yeah.
I'm going to just refresh the board for a moment, come back, F5, bishop D5, and Temur had seen enough.
Time to throw in the towel. So that is all 5 games in the A group
Right.
finished then.
A very
So,
model game.
Why don't
by Ray
we
Robson.
just double check that final game we've got
Please.
going on in the B group? I did also hear that Antipov had officially won his game, but that was over in the A group, I
Right.
think. And this is
A
where
draw.
we stand here. And yeah, a draw without the A pawn, a draw with the A pawn. It's
Exactly.
just the Theodorou's position.
Exactly, a draw expected here, and it will be the only draw.
The only draw in the B group, and I think there was just one draw in the A group as well. So a crazy day
Wow.
here at the Summer Chess Classic.
As we see Alice and Stephen
I think
going through,
we'll see a repetition here.
no draw offers.
No draw offers allowed. Repetitions still allowed.
Repetitions
It would be a pretty different game if they weren't.
exactly.
I'm a fan of Japanese chess, shogi,
Shogi.
and in that game, there are no repetitions allowed.
Right.
And they solved this by having, in this case, black would be the one not allowed to give the repetition.
Right.
If you're the one trying to force it, you're just not allowed to do it after a
Right.
couple times. And then
Exactly.
you have to do something else.
Exactly.
But here, of course, chess is a little different. We do see the draw in that game, and that wraps up the entire round.
It does indeed.
So maybe we should take another quick look at those standings.
Exactly.
Let's
Now
just
that
double
we
check the
have,
A group. Of course, now Ray, with that win, joins the leaders.
Bravo.
4 players tied for first place, and 3 more within just a half point, with Awonder Liang, Ante Brkic, and Nikolas Theodorou.
Right.
And Antipov did actually win that game rather than lose it, I think. But that's okay. Antipov has 1 point total. I'm learning. Yeah.
Michael lost today. That was that crazy game he played against Nikolas.
Yes.
I mean, we just
Got it.
didn't know heads or tails. But he
he
Michael
does have a
should
point.
have 1 point
Yes.
on his score. Not the result is correct.
Okay, and let's just check out the B group as well.
Indeed.
Andy Woodward, with that nice win, secures himself
Bravo.
pole position. 2.5 out of 3 is a very good score.
Very impressive young man. He came on our show, and Alice Lee drew her game, so she's actually
At 1.5, along with
1.5.
Steven Zierk.
exactly
Not a double forfeit. in
not a
that game.
double forfeit, right?
And so yeah, Andy leading the pack, and also
Master-elect.
you know in the running, Raja is up there, Josiah is up there, and it's
Sure.
still anybody's tournament.
Absolutely.
Well, Yasser, another fun day at chess. Thanks for
Absolutely.
joining. Thank you all for joining us at home.
Indeed.
Don't forget, games start at 1:30 p.m. each day. Follow along at uschesschamps.com, and you can follow our coverage starting at 4 o'clock.
Tell your friends where you're hanging out, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
All right. Thank you and good night.
Wow, a lot of decisive games today.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.